Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What If. So in this video, we will see what if Gwen got the OMNITRIX instead of Ben. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Summer That Changed Everything. This is going to be the worst summer ever, Ben Tennyson groaned, slumping against the window of the rust bucket. The old RV rumbled down the highway, carrying him toward what felt like a prison sentence, 3 months with his boring cousin and weird grandpa. Gwen Tennyson rolled her eyes from across the table, not bothering to look up from her laptop. It's not exactly my idea of fun either, doofus. Some of us had actual plans this summer. Like what? Chess club? Math camp? Ben mimed falling asleep, complete with exaggerated snoring. For your information, I was supposed to attend an advanced coding workshop at MIT, Gwen snapped, finally looking up. But sure, 3 months watching you pick your nose is way better. From the driver's seat, their grandfather Max Tennyson chuckled. Come on, you two. This summer's going to be an adventure. Fishing, hiking, seeing the country, who knows what might happen. Neither cousin looked convinced. Ben returned to his handheld game, while Gwen typed furiously on her laptop. They'd barely made it past the state line, and already the tension in the RV was thicker than Grandpa Max's infamous mystery stew. Max pulled into a campground as the sun began to set, the perfect spot for their first night on the road. Tall pines surrounded a clearing near a small creek, far enough from other campers to feel secluded. Ben, help me set up the awning. Gwen, could you gather some firewood? Max asked as he parked the rust bucket. Why do I have to get the firewood? Gwen complained. It's getting dark. Afraid of the big bad forest? Ben teased, making ghost noises. Fine, Gwen huffed, grabbing the flashlight from the counter. Anything to get away from you. The forest wasn't particularly scary, just annoyingly dark as Gwen swept her flashlight across the ground, picking up sticks and branches. The crackling of twigs beneath her feet and chirping crickets were the only sounds aside from the distant rush of the creek. Stupid Ben. Stupid summer, she muttered, bending down to grab another stick. A twig snapped behind her. Gwen whirled around, her heart pounding. Hello? Grandpa? Ben? No answer. Very funny, Ben. I know it's you. Gwen pointed her flashlight toward the sound. Nothing. She took a deep breath. Get it together, Gwen. There's nothing there. That's when she saw it, a streak of light cutting across the sky. Not a shooting star. It was too bright, too directed. The object changed course, heading straight toward her. What the? Gwen dove out of the way as the object smashed into the ground where she'd been standing, sending dirt and leaves flying. The impact knocked her flashlight from her hands, leaving her in near darkness except for an eerie glow coming from the small crater. Curiosity overcoming fear, Gwen crawled toward the light. In the center of the crater sat a sphere, metallic and alien, pulsing with green energy. As she approached, it opened like a flower, revealing what looked like a watch, sleek, black and green, unlike any technology she'd ever seen. Whoa, she breathed, reaching out. What are you? The moment her fingers brushed against it, the device sprang to life, leaping from its container and clamping onto her wrist. Gwen screamed, falling backward as she tried to pull it off. Get off! Get off me, she yelled, tugging frantically. The device wouldn't budge. It seemed to meld with her skin, becoming part of her. The center began to glow, displaying a silhouette that didn't look human. Panicking, Gwen pushed herself to her feet and hit the forest floor running, abandoning the firewood. She had to get back to Grandpa Max. She burst into the clearing, breathless. Grandpa. Something's on me. I can't get it off. Max turned from the half-assembled awning, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm when he saw her wrist. Gwen, what happened? What is that? I don't know. It fell from the sky and jumped on me. Gwen thrust her arm forward. Help me get it off. Ben appeared from behind the RV, his eyes widening. Cool. Is that some kind of weird watch? It's not cool, Ben. Gwen snapped. It's stuck on me. Max approached cautiously, examining the device without touching it. Did you press anything? Turn any dials? No. I just touched it and it. Gwen's explanation was cut short as her finger accidentally pressed down on the raised dial. In a flash of green light that temporarily blinded them all, Gwen's body began to change. Her skin hardened and cracked, turning red-hot as flames erupted across her transformed body. Where Gwen had stood seconds before now towered a humanoid creature made of living fire, radiating intense heat that immediately withered nearby plants. Aya! Gwen's scream came out as a roar of flame. She looked down at her burning hands in horror. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Gwen, calm down. Max shouted, backing away from the heat while pushing Ben behind him. Calm down. I'm literally burning. Help me. Gwen spun in panic, her fiery foot catching the edge of the awning, which immediately burst into flames. The rust bucket. Max yelled as the flames spread to the RV's exterior. Gwen, stop moving. Ben shouted. You're making it worse. I can't stop. I'm fire. I'm going to die. Gwen wailed, stumbling backward and igniting a nearby tree. You're not dying. Ben shouted, grabbing a bucket of water they'd collected from the creek. He hesitated, then put it down. Wait, if you're made of fire, water might hurt you. This made Gwen pause. Through her panic, a logical thought surfaced. If she was made of fire, would water extinguish her, kill her? Gwen, listen to me, Max said firmly, approaching as close as the heat would allow. You're not burning. You are the fire. It's not hurting you. How do you know that? Gwen demanded, but she realized he was right. She didn't feel pain, just power. Intense energy coursing through this strange body. Try to control it, Max suggested. Like a stove. Turn it down. Ben nodded encouragingly. Yeah. Like when you do that meditation stuff you're always bragging about. Focus and stuff. Gwen closed her eyes, or whatever passed for eyes in this form, and concentrated on the sensation of heat. Imagining it as energy she could control, she mentally dialed it back. To her surprise, she felt the flames recede slightly, becoming less wild. It's working. Ben exclaimed. You're less flamey. Opening her eyes, Gwen saw the flames on her arms had reduced, becoming more controlled. She took an experimental step forward, carefully avoiding anything flammable. That's it, Max encouraged. Now, let's figure out how to get you back to normal. The watch thing, Ben suggested. It's gotta have an off switch, right? Gwen examined her fiery wrist, finding what appeared to be a symbol embedded in her chest. There's something here, but I don't know how to. Before she could finish, the symbol beeped and flashed red. Another flash of light enveloped her, and suddenly Gwen was herself again, collapsing to her knees in shock. What just happened? She gasped, staring at the device on her wrist, which now glowed red instead of green. Max knelt beside her, examining the device with a frown that suggested more than simple concern. Are you hurt? Gwen shook her head. No. I felt weird, but not hurt. Grandpa, what is this thing? I don't know, Max said, but something in his voice made Gwen suspicious. But we need to get it off you. It was awesome. Ben exclaimed, excitement overriding his initial shock. You were like a fire monster. Do you think you could fly? Or shoot fireballs? Man, if I had that watch, it's not a toy, Ben, Max said sharply. This is serious. Gwen could have been hurt. But I wasn't, Gwen said slowly, examining the device. Now that the immediate panic had passed, her analytical mind kicked in. This technology, it's nothing like I've ever seen. The transformation was complete, cellular, maybe molecular level conversion. Yeah, science stuff, Ben waved dismissively. But can you do it again? Turn into something else? No, Max said firmly. We need to focus on removing it. But Grandpa, Gwen protested, shouldn't we try to understand what it is first? I mean, it fell from space. This could be first contact with alien technology. Max's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. All the more reason to be cautious. Now, let's put out these fires before the whole forest goes up. After dousing the small fires Gwen had accidentally started, they retreated to the rust bucket for the night. Despite Max's attempts to pry the device off with everything from butter to a hacksaw, it remained firmly attached to Gwen's wrist, as if it had become part of her. Later that night, as Ben snored in the bunk above her, Gwen examined the watch-like device by flashlight. The face had returned to green, displaying different silhouettes as she turned the dial. What are you? She whispered, fingers hovering over the dial. Part of her, the careful, rule-following part, knew she should leave it alone until they found help. But another part, the curious, knowledge-seeking part, couldn't resist the mystery. Making her decision, Gwen quietly slipped out of the RV, careful not to wake Grandpa Max who was asleep in the driver's cabin. Once outside, she examined the device again. The center displayed what looked like a slim, speedline silhouette. Here goes nothing, she murmured, and pressed down on the dial. The transformation was as sudden as before. Green light engulfed her, and when it faded, Gwen found herself in a new alien form, sleek, blue-skinned, with wheels for feet and a streamlined body built for speed. Whoa, she whispered, her voice higher and faster. Moving experimentally, she nearly fell as her wheeled feet shot forward. This is different. Steadying herself against a tree, Gwen tested her balance. It took a few wobbling attempts before she found her center of gravity. Then, cautiously, she pushed forward. The world blurred around her as she accelerated to incredible speed, zooming through the forest faster than her mind could process. Trees became streaks of shadow, the ground a continuous blur beneath her wheels. Wait, this is amazing. Gwen shouted, her voice dopplering as she raced in circles around the campsite. The speed was intoxicating, each movement carrying her faster than should be possible. She turned, heading down the path toward the creek, control improving with each second. Leaning into turns, accelerating on straightaways, it felt natural, as if this body knew exactly what to do. Reaching the creek, Gwen skidded to a stop at the bank, water spraying as her wheels dug into the mud. She looked at her reflection in the moonlit water, a blue, helmeted alien with a black-striped body and ball-like wheels instead of feet. XLR-8, she said spontaneously, not knowing where the name came from but feeling it fit perfectly. That's what you're called, aren't you? A twig snapped behind her. Gwen whirled around, finding Ben standing there in his pajamas, mouth hanging open. That is awesome, he shouted. You're some kind of speed alien now. Ben. You followed me? Gwen's surprise came out at triple speed. Duh. You think I wouldn't notice you sneaking out? Ben approached, circling her with undisguised envy. Man, I wish that watch had landed near me instead. Well, it didn't, Gwen replied, but without her usual snippiness. She was too exhilarated by the transformation to be annoyed. And Grandpa's going to kill us both if he wakes up and finds us gone. So. Show me what you can do first. Ben challenged. Race to that big rock and back. Before Gwen could respond, a whirring sound cut through the night. Both cousins turned to see a floating mechanical orb emerge from the trees, its single red eye. Scanning them before fixing on Gwen. What's that? Ben asked, backing up. The orb suddenly sprouted spiked appendages and launched toward them. Gwen grabbed Ben and accelerated, yanking him out of harm's way milliseconds before the machine smashed into the ground where they'd been standing. "It's after us!" Gwen shouted, setting Ben down a safe distance away. "Stay here." "No way. I'm not letting you have all the fun," Ben protested. The machine recalibrated, its red eye fixing on Gwen again. With mechanical precision, it fired a laser that scorched the ground as Gwen dodged at super speed. "This is not fun, Ben," Gwen yelled, zipping around the drone, looking for weaknesses. "This thing's trying to kill us. I think it's after that watch," Ben called out. "It showed up right after you transformed." The drone proved surprisingly quick, adjusting its targeting almost instantly as Gwen zoomed around it. A lucky shot grazed her shoulder, sending her spinning into a tree. "Gwen!" Ben shouted, grabbing a rock and hurling it at the drone. It bounced off harmlessly, but distracted the machine long enough for Gwen to recover. "I need to hit it harder," Gwen realized, pushing herself up. "This form is fast but not strong enough." As if responding to her thoughts, the symbol on her chest started flashing red. Another transformation flashed over her, returning her to human form. "Not now!" Gwen cried as the drone advanced. She frantically twisted the watch dial, cycling through silhouettes. "Come on, come on!" The drone fired another laser. Ben tackled Gwen out of the way, both of them rolling behind a boulder as the beam cut through the night. "Pick one already," Ben urged. Gwen stopped on a bulky, crystalline silhouette and slammed the dial down. The green light flashed again, and where Gwen had been now stood a towering creature made of pale green diamond-like material, reflecting moonlight from dozens of facets. "Whoa," Ben breathed. "You're like a living diamond." The drone fired again. Acting on instinct, Gwen raised her arms, surprised when the laser reflected off her crystalline body, rebounding into a nearby tree. "I'm reflective," Gwen exclaimed, her voice deeper and resonating. "And stronger." With newfound confidence, Gwen charged the drone. It fired continuously, but each beam bounced harmlessly off her diamond skin. Reaching the machine, she smashed a crystalline fist into its core, sending it crashing to the ground. "Take that, you mechanical menace!" Gwen shouted, following with another crushing blow. The drone sparked and whirred, attempting to repair itself. "Finish it!" Ben yelled, jumping up and down in excitement. Gwen's diamond arm morphed into a blade-like appendage. "With pleasure." She drove the blade into the drone's eye, twisting until something inside cracked. The machine shuddered, then went still. "You did it!" Ben cheered, running over. "That was awesome. You were all like," he mimicked punching and slashing motions, complete with sound effects. Gwen examined her crystalline body with newfound appreciation. "This one's called Diamond Head," she said, again not knowing how she knew. "I can feel it." "How many aliens can you turn into?" Ben asked, poking her diamond arm. "I don't know," Gwen admitted. "But the watch has lots of different silhouettes." Their celebration was cut short by a gruff voice from behind them. "What in blazes is going on here?" They turned to find Grandpa Max standing at the edge of the clearing, flashlight in hand and a look of alarm on his face. His expression shifted to shock when he saw Gwen's transformed state. "Grandpa!" Ben exclaimed. "You missed it. This robot thing attacked us and Gwen went all Crystal Warrior on it." Max's gaze moved from Gwen to the destroyed drone, his frown deepening. "I thought I told you not to use that watch again." "I know, but," Gwen began. "No buts," Max said firmly, approaching the drone and examining it with surprising expertise. "This is exactly what I was worried about. Whatever that device is, others want it." "But I handled it," Gwen protested. "Diamond Head's basically invulnerable to lasers." "Diamond Head?" Max repeated, giving her a strange look. That's what this alien is called, Gwen explained. And the fast one is XLR-8. I don't know how I know, I just do. Max sighed heavily. Let's get back to the RV. Now. And don't touch anything else on your way. As they walked back, the symbol on Gwen's chest began flashing red again. With another flash of light, she returned to human form, stumbling slightly as her body readjusted. This is so unfair, Ben muttered as they followed Max. If I had that watch, I wouldn't waste it being careful. That's exactly why it's better on my wrist than yours, Gwen retorted. I actually think before I act. Back at the rust bucket, Max insisted they try to remove the device again, with no success. Finally, seeing Gwen's exhaustion, he relented. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow we'll find someone who can help. Who? Gwen asked. The police? Scientists? This seems a little beyond normal help, Grandpa. Max paused at the curtain to his sleeping area. I have some old friends who might know something about this. But for now, rest. After Max disappeared behind the curtain, Ben leaned down from his bunk. He's acting weird, don't you think? Like he knows more than he's saying. Gwen nodded. Definitely. Did you see how he examined that drone? Not exactly standard Grandpa knowledge. Maybe he's a secret agent, Ben suggested excitedly. Grandpa Max, international spy. Gwen rolled her eyes. Don't be ridiculous. But as she settled into her bunk, staring at the alien device on her wrist, she couldn't help wondering exactly what secrets their grandfather might be keeping. Morning came with the smell of Grandpa Max's questionable cooking, eggs with what appeared to be blue spots and a side of something tentacle-like. Gwen picked at her plate while Ben, surprisingly, ate with gusto. So what's the plan, Grandpa? Ben asked through a mouthful of suspicious eggs. Are we going alien hunting? Max shook his head. We're going to continue our trip as planned. The less attention we draw, the better. But what about this? Gwen held up her wrist, displaying the device. Don't you think we should try to figure out what it is? Where it came from? The best thing right now is to lay low, Max insisted. No more transformations unless absolutely necessary. But Grandpa, no buts, Gwen, Max said firmly. This isn't a game. That drone last night was just the beginning. Whatever sent it might send something worse next time. Gwen frowned but nodded reluctantly. As weird as Grandpa was acting, she knew he was right about the danger. Still, the scientist in her couldn't help but be fascinated by the device and its capabilities. After breakfast, as they packed up camp, Gwen found a moment alone behind the rust bucket. She examined the watch-like device, turning the dial to see the different alien silhouettes. One particularly small form caught her attention. Just one more quick test, she whispered to herself, pressing down on the dial. The familiar green flash enveloped her, but this time when it faded, everything around her seemed enormous. The grass that had barely reached her ankles now towered above her head. She looked down at her gray-skinned body, noting the oversized head and large eyes. I'm tiny, she squeaked, her voice high and fast. And my brain feels different. Faster, sharper. Looking around from this new perspective was disorienting but fascinating. She could see the complex structure of grass stems, the intricate patterns of dirt particles, even the microscopic world of bacteria on the ground. Incredible, she murmured, her mind racing with calculations and observations. This form must have enhanced intelligence. I can process information at an exponentially faster rate. Gwen. Ben's voice boomed from what seemed like miles above. Where'd you go? Gwen looked up to see a giant Ben peering around the campsite. Down here, doofus, she called. Ben's gaze dropped to the ground, his eyes widening comically. Whoa. You're a little gray alien dude. I'm a girl, even in alien form, Gwen corrected, climbing onto Ben's shoe to be seen better. Ben knelt down, examining her with fascination. "You're like a walking brain. What's this one called?" "Gray matter, I think," Gwen replied. "And my intelligence is significantly enhanced in this form. I could probably build a nuclear reactor with a paperclip and some chewing gum right now." "Seriously?" Ben's face lit up. "That's so cool. Can you build me a jetpack?" "I could," Gwen said thoughtfully, "but I shouldn't. The ethical implications of creating advanced technology without proper safety protocols, boring." Ben interrupted. "Even as a super-smart alien, you're still a total nerd." Before Gwen could retort, Max's shadow fell over them. "Gwen. What did I just say about transformations?" "Sorry, Grandpa," Gwen apologized, looking up at his towering form. "I was just testing one more form. For science." Max sighed, picking her up carefully and placing her on the picnic table. "We need to be careful. Every time you transform, you might be sending out a signal to whoever sent that drone." As if on cue, the symbol on Gray Matter's back began flashing red. Another transformation later, and Gwen was human-sized again. "Fine," she conceded. "No more transformations unless it's an emergency." "Good," Max nodded. "Now let's hit the road. We've got a lot of ground to cover today." As they drove away from the campsite, none of them noticed the small, spider-like robot that emerged from the destroyed drone, attaching itself to the underside of the rust bucket. The next few days passed without incident as they traveled toward their next destination, a small tourist town famous for its natural hot springs and mysterious legends about creatures living in the nearby mountains. Despite Max's warnings, Gwen couldn't resist experimenting with the device, which she now called the OMNITRIX, based on tiny inscriptions Gray Matter had noticed, in secret. Each night, when Ben and Max were asleep, she'd sneak out and transform briefly, cataloging each alien's abilities in a notebook. So far, she'd discovered 10 different alien forms, each with unique powers and characteristics. Heat Blast controlled fire, XLR-8 had super speed, Diamond Head could create crystal structures, and Gray Matter possessed enhanced intelligence. There was also Ripjaws, an aquatic alien with incredible swimming abilities, Stinkfly, a four-winged insect capable of flight, Upgrade, who could merge with an enhanced technology, Ghost Freak, a spectral being who could turn intangible, Wildmutt, a quadruped with no eyes but enhanced senses, and Four Arms, a four-armed powerhouse with incredible strength. "This device is incredible," she whispered to herself as she made notes about Upgrade's abilities after successfully merging with and improving the rust bucket's air conditioning unit. The genetic engineering involved must be millennia beyond Earth technology. A noise from the front of the RV made her quickly shut her notebook. Grandpa Max emerged from his sleeping area, rubbing his eyes. "Gwen. What are you doing up so late?" "Just homework," she lied, sliding the notebook under her pillow. "Summer reading." Max raised an eyebrow. "At midnight?" "You know me, always the overachiever," Gwen forced a smile. "But I'm done now, promise." Max didn't look convinced but nodded. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day." The busy day turned out to include a visit to the local history museum, which housed exhibits on the town's mining past and legends of mountain creatures. Ben complained the entire time, dragging his feet from display to display while Gwen eagerly absorbed the information. "This is so boring," Ben groaned as they examined a diorama of early miners. "When are we going to do something fun?" "Learning is fun," Gwen replied automatically, though her mind was partially occupied with thoughts of the OMNITRIX. How would Four Arms strength help in a mine collapse? Could Ghost Freak phase through rock to reach trapped miners? Their museum tour was interrupted by screams from outside. Running to the window, they saw people fleeing from what appeared to be a giant frog with metal components attached to its body. "What is that?" Ben exclaimed. "Trouble," Max replied grimly. "Stay here, both of you." But as Max headed for the door, more screams erupted from another direction. A second mutated animal, This time what looked like a giant eagle with mechanical wings, swooped down on terrified tourists. "There's more than one," Gwen said. "Grandpa, you can't handle this alone." Max hesitated, conflict evident on his face. Finally, he nodded. "Be careful, Gwen." "Ben, stay with me." "No way." Ben protested. "I want to help too." "You can help by staying safe," Max insisted, pulling him back. Gwen ran behind a display case, already turning the OMNITRIX dial. "Four arms should be strong enough to handle this," she muttered, selecting the four-armed silhouette. The transformation washed over her in a flash of green. Where Gwen had stood now towered a 12-foot-tall, red-skinned alien with 4 massive arms and incredible musculature. "Let's squash some frogs," Four Arms growled, her voice deep and powerful. Charging outside, Gwen confronted the giant mutant frog as it cornered a group of tourists against a storefront. "Hey, Kermit. Pick on someone your own size." The frog turned, revealing glowing red eyes and what appeared to be a control collar around its neck. It croaked menacingly before launching itself at Gwen. Despite Four Arms' strength, the frog proved surprisingly agile, bouncing off walls and using its long tongue as a weapon. Gwen managed to catch the tongue mid-attack, using it to swing the frog into a parked car. "Sorry about that," she called to the car's owner, who stood watching in shock. "Insurance should cover giant mutant frog damage, right?" The frog recovered quickly, spitting some kind of acidic slime that Gwen barely dodged. The substance melted through a metal trash can like butter. "Okay, that's just gross," Gwen complained, looking for a way to disable the creature without hurting it. The control collar seemed to be the key. Grabbing a fallen street sign, Gwen wielded it like a baseball bat. "Batter up." She swung as the frog leaped at her again, connecting solidly and sending the creature flying into a fountain. While the frog was momentarily stunned, Gwen pounced, using her 4 arms to restrain it while she examined the collar. "Let's see if I can." With a precise application of strength, she cracked the collar open. The effect was immediate. The frog's eyes returned to normal, and it shrank rapidly until it was just an ordinary frog, which hopped away contentedly. "One down," Gwen said, turning to look for the eagle. She spotted it diving toward a familiar figure. Ben. Her cousin was standing in the middle of the street, waving his arms and shouting at the mutant eagle. "Over here, you oversized chicken." "What is he doing?" Gwen groaned, sprinting toward him with 4 arms incredible speed. She reached Ben just as the eagle swooped down, snatching him up with a powerful claw. "Gwen!" Ben shouted as he was carried into the air. "I got you." Gwen leaped upward, her powerful legs launching her 3 stories high. She caught the eagle's tail feathers, dragging it down with her weight. The eagle screeched, releasing Ben to attack Gwen instead. Ben fell, screaming, only to be caught by Max, who had positioned himself perfectly beneath. "I told you to stay with me." Max shouted, setting Ben down. "I was trying to help." Ben protested. "Distract it so Gwen could grab it." "By using yourself as bait?" Max's anger was tempered with fear. "That was reckless, Ben." Meanwhile, Gwen grappled with the eagle, trying to reach its control collar while avoiding its razor-sharp beak. "A little help would be nice," she called. Ben looked around frantically, then grabbed a garden hose from a nearby yard. "Grandpa, turn the water on full blast." Understanding dawned on Max's face. He ran to the spigot and cranked it open. Ben directed the powerful stream at the eagle, distracting it enough for Gwen to reach the collar and crush it. Like the frog, the eagle immediately returned to normal size, flapping away in confusion. "Nice teamwork," Gwen admitted as she approached Ben and Max, still in 4 arms form. People had begun to gather, pointing and taking pictures with their phones. Whispers of alien and superhero rippled through the crowd. "We need to go," Max said urgently. "Now, before, freeze." A man in a black suit pushed through the crowd, displaying a badge. Government agent. Nobody move. Too late, Ben muttered. The agent approached cautiously, hand hovering near what was undoubtedly a concealed weapon. Identify yourself, he demanded, addressing 4 arms. Gwen stood her ground, crossing all 4 arms. I'm just trying to help. Those animals were being controlled. By whom? The agent pressed. I don't know, Gwen admitted. But they had control collars that looked pretty advanced. The agent seemed about to say more when his radio crackled. Agent Steele, we have another situation at the research center. More mutants. Copy that, the agent replied, giving Gwen a hard look. This isn't over, he warned before running back to his vehicle. As he drove away, the OMNITRIX symbol on Gwen's chest began flashing red. We should go before I change back in front of everyone, she suggested. They barely made it back to the rust bucket before Gwen reverted to human form. That was close, she sighed, collapsing onto the bench seat. Too close, Max agreed, starting the RV, we're leaving town. Now. But what about the other mutants? Gwen protested. We can't just abandon these people. And what about that government agent? Ben added. He seemed pretty interested in Gwen's aliens. Max's expression was grim as he pulled the rust bucket onto the main road. That's exactly why we need to leave. The less attention the OMNITRIX gets, the safer you'll be, Gwen. But someone is creating those mutants, Gwen insisted. We have a responsibility to help. Your safety is my responsibility, Max countered. And right now, that means distance between us and anyone looking for the OMNITRIX. As they argued, they passed a small figure watching from the shadows, a man with wild white hair and glinting goggles, surrounded by cages of animals. Interesting, Dr. Aloysius James Onimo murmured, watching the rust bucket drive by. Very interesting indeed. Inside a vast ship hidden in the depths of space, a heavily damaged figure floated in a regeneration tank. Mechanical arms worked tirelessly to repair extensive injuries as surveillance feeds displayed images from Earth, specifically, images of a red, four-armed alien battling mutant creatures. So, a gravelly voice emerged from the tank, the OMNITRIX has found its way to Earth, to a human female child. A robotic drone approached the tank. Analysis confirms, Lord Vilgax. The OMNITRIX energy signature matches perfectly. Prepare my ship, Vilgax commanded, his red eyes narrowing as he watched Gwen transform back to human form on the monitor. The hunt begins. Back on the road, tension filled the rust bucket as Max drove in silence, occasionally checking the rearview mirror as if expecting pursuit. You know more than you're telling us, don't you, Grandpa? Gwen finally said, breaking the silence. Max's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What makes you say that? The way you examined that drone, for starters, Gwen replied. And you weren't nearly as surprised as you should have been when I first transformed. It's like you've seen aliens before. Ben leaned forward from the back seat. Yeah, and you knew exactly what to do when those mutant animals attacked. Normal grandpas don't know that stuff. Max sighed deeply, his shoulders slumping slightly. I suppose you two are too smart for your own good, he admitted. Yes, I know some things about extraterrestrial matters. But it's complicated, and honestly, dangerous. More dangerous than this. Gwen held up her wrist, displaying the OMNITRIX. I think we deserve some answers, Grandpa. You're right, Max conceded. But not now. Tonight, when we're safe and settled, I'll tell you what I can. That evening, they camped in a remote location, far from towns or main roads. After dinner, Max built a fire and sat down with his grandchildren. I wasn't always just a plumber, he began, staring into the flames. For many years, I was part of an organization called, the Plumbers. Wait, you were part of a plumbers union? Ben asked, confused. Max shook his head. Not that kind of plumber. The plumbers were a secret government organization dedicated to dealing with extraterrestrial presence on Earth. Gwen and Ben exchanged shocked glances. "You were a secret agent?" Ben exclaimed. "I was right. More like a specialized peacekeeper," Max clarified. "We monitored alien activity, prevented hostile invasions, and maintained diplomatic relations with friendly species." "So aliens have been visiting Earth for years?" Gwen asked, fascinated. "Longer than you'd imagine," Max nodded. "Most keep to themselves or disguise their presence. But occasionally, we deal with threats, or objects of interest, like that device on your wrist." Gwen looked down at the OMNITRIX. "You know what this is?" "Not exactly," Max admitted. "But I recognize advanced alien technology when I see it. And I know it's valuable enough that many species would do anything to possess it." "Is that why you retired? Because aliens stopped coming to Earth?" Ben asked. Max's expression darkened. "No. The plumbers were disbanded. Official policy changed. But some of us kept our eyes open, stayed ready. And that's why you know how to fight alien drones and mutant frogs," Gwen concluded. "I've had my share of unusual encounters," Max acknowledged with a slight smile. "Which is why I was hoping to keep you two out of danger this summer, not drop you right into it. But now that I have the OMNITRIX, what do we do?" Gwen asked. Max looked at her seriously. "We need to be careful. Use it only when necessary. And I'll reach out to some old contacts, see if they know anything about where it came from or how to remove it safely." "Remove it?" Gwen frowned. "But it's helped us save people already." "It's also made you a target," Max pointed out. "That government agent today. He's not the only one who'll be looking for you now. And some will be far more dangerous." As if to emphasize his point, a distant explosion lit up the night sky. They all turned to see smoke rising from the direction of the nearest town, about 5 miles away. "So much for staying out of trouble," Ben muttered. Gwen was already on her feet, turning the OMNITRIX dial. "Necessary enough for you, Grandpa?" Max nodded grimly. "Let's go. But we stick together this time. XLR-8 can get us there fastest," Gwen decided, selecting the speedy alien and transforming in a flash of green light. "Cool!" Ben exclaimed as Gwen lifted him onto her back, then carefully picked up Max. "Hold on tight," she warned, and in a blur of motion, they raced toward the town and whatever danger awaited them. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a summer that would change their lives forever. Chapter 2, The Enemy of My Enemy. Gwen ducked behind a dumpster as energy blasts scorched the brick wall above her head. 1 month into summer vacation, and getting shot at had somehow become routine. "Any day now, dweeb," Ben shouted from his hiding spot across the alley. "I'm working on it." Gwen twisted the OMNITRIX dial, cycling through alien options while trying not to get her head blown off. The device had been recharging for the past 5 minutes, another fun feature she'd discovered through hard experience. 3 more energy blasts hit nearby, turning concrete to smoking rubble. Their attacker, a floating robot with more guns than sense, hovered at the alley entrance, scanning methodically. "Grandpa's not gonna reach us in time," Ben called. "Got any bright ideas that don't involve the watch?" Gwen peered around the dumpster. The robot had them pinned down, but its sensors seemed to track movement. "Yeah. Don't move." "What?" "Just trust me for once." Ben froze as the robot swept its sensors across his position. Remarkably, it didn't fire, instead continuing its scan pattern. Gwen grabbed a broken bottle from beside the dumpster and hurled it down the alley. The robot immediately blasted it to dust. "Motion sensors," she whispered. "If we stay completely still, it can't see us." "Great plan," Ben whispered back. "We'll just stand here forever." The OMNITRIX finally flashed green, ready for use again. Gwen grinned. Not forever. She slammed down on the dial, green light washing over her. When it faded, a small, frog-like alien crouched where Gwen had been. "Gray matter," she squeaked in dismay. "I was going for 4 arms." "We're doomed," Ben groaned. The robot immediately detected the transformation energy and swiveled toward Gwen, weapons charging. "Hold that thought." Gray matter leapt with surprising agility, landing on a fire escape ladder. As the robot fired, she scrambled up the metal rungs, her enhanced intelligence already analyzing the machine's design flaws. Primitive targeting algorithm, power coupling exposed on the ventral housing. She muttered, climbing higher as the robot gave chase. Ben grabbed a trash can lid and hurled it at the robot. "Hey, circuit brain! Over here!" The distraction worked, for about 2 seconds. The robot blasted the lid to pieces but quickly returned its attention to Gwen. "That thing really wants the OMNITRIX," Ben realized, ducking behind the dumpster again. Gwen reached the top of the fire escape and paused, watching the robot approach. Its targeting systems locked on her tiny form. "Perfect," she whispered, waiting until the last possible moment before jumping. As she'd calculated, the robot fired at her previous position, the blast severing the fire escape support brackets. The entire metal structure groaned, then collapsed onto the robot, crushing it against the alley floor. Gwen landed on the robot's now exposed underside. "As I suspected. Substandard impact shielding." With precise movements, she pulled apart wires and rerouted circuits. The robot's lights flickered, then went dark. "Is it dead?" Ben called, cautiously approaching. "Temporarily deactivated," Gwen replied. "I've rerouted its command functions through a logic loop. It's basically stuck calculating pi to infinity." Ben stared at her. "You're scary when you're smart." "I'm always smart," Gwen retorted as the OMNITRIX timed out, returning her to human form. "Just not usually this tiny." The sound of tires screeching caught their attention as the rust bucket pulled up at the alley entrance. Grandpa Max leaned out the window, looking simultaneously relieved and annoyed. What part of "stay at the campground" was unclear, he demanded as they climbed aboard. "The part where killer robots keep finding us anyway," Ben suggested, flopping onto the bench seat. Max sighed, putting the RV in gear. "That's the 3rd attack this week. They're getting more persistent." "And more advanced," Gwen added, examining a piece of tech she'd pulled from the robot. "This one had adaptive targeting algorithms. They're learning to get their butts kicked," Ben grinned, high-fiving his cousin. Max didn't share their enthusiasm. "This isn't a game, kids. Whoever's sending these machines isn't going to give up." "Vilgax," Gwen said, the name they'd learned from Max's plumber contacts. "You think he's behind this?" "Almost certainly," Max replied grimly. "And if he's sending drones instead of coming himself, it means he's either planning something bigger or still recovering from our last encounter." "Wait, you've actually fought this Vilgax guy?" Ben asked, suddenly wide-eyed. Max's expression darkened. "Story for another time. Right now, we need to keep moving." They'd spent the last month in constant motion, never staying in one place for more than a couple of days. It had turned their summer vacation into a bizarre road trip, part tourist adventure, part running for their lives. Between robot attacks, Gwen had gotten better at controlling the OMNITRIX. She could now select specific aliens more reliably and use their powers more effectively. Ben had appointed himself her combat trainer, designing obstacle courses and challenge scenarios that would have been annoying if they hadn't actually helped. "Where to next?" Gwen asked, studying the map spread across the table. "State Ford," Max replied. "Small industrial town about 80 miles east. I've got an old friend there who might be able to help us understand more about the OMNITRIX." "Another plumber?" Ben asked, making air quotes. "Something like that," Max said cryptically. The rust bucket rumbled down the highway as darkness fell, its passengers unaware that another pair of eyes was tracking their journey. Perched on a water tower overlooking the road, a dark figure watched the RV through a pair of enhanced binoculars. "Gotcha," Kevin Levin murmured, a smile spreading across his face as he detected the energy signature he'd been hunting for weeks. Time to power up. State Ford appeared on the horizon the next morning, a sprawling complex of factories and warehouses surrounded by modest neighborhoods. Most of the industrial buildings looked abandoned, casualties of economic downturn. "Cheery place," Ben remarked as they drove past rusting chain-link fences and graffiti-covered walls. "It's seen better days," Max admitted. "The big power plant closed 10 years ago. Most folks moved away after that. So why are we here again?" Gwen asked, looking up from her laptop where she'd been cataloging her alien transformations. "My contact has a workshop here. If anyone can give us insight into the OMNITRIX's technology, it's her." They pulled into the parking lot of what appeared to be an abandoned auto repair shop. Faded signs and dusty windows suggested it had been closed for years. "Your friend works here?" Ben asked skeptically. "Appearances can be deceiving," Max replied with a knowing smile, approaching the shop's door and knocking in a distinct pattern, 3 quick taps, pause, 2 slow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a hidden scanner emerged from the doorframe, bathing Max in blue light. "Identity confirmed, Maxwell Tennyson," announced a computerized voice. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a high-tech laboratory beyond. "Whoa," Ben whispered. "Close your mouth before you catch flies," Gwen said, though she looked equally impressed. They followed Max into the lab, where complex machinery hummed and holographic displays flickered. In the center, a woman with silver-streaked black hair worked on what appeared to be an engine suspended in mid-air by force fields. "Still hiding in plain sight, Xylene," Max called. The woman turned, and the children gasped. She wasn't human, her skin was pale green, her eyes large and pupilless, and she had 3-fingered hands and tentacle-like appendages emerging from her head. "Maxwell," she replied, her voice melodic but clearly alien. "It's been too long." "An actual alien," Ben exclaimed, unable to contain himself. "Like, not Gwen transformed, but a real alien." Xylene raised what passed for an eyebrow. "And you've brought young ones. How unusual." "My grandchildren," Max explained. "Ben and Gwen. We need your help." Xylene's eyes fixed on Gwen's wrist. "The OMNITRIX," she breathed. "So the rumors were true. It's on Earth. You know about this thing?" Gwen held up her arm, displaying the device. "Know about it?" Xylene approached, examining the OMNITRIX without touching it. "Child, the OMNITRIX is the most sophisticated piece of technology in 5 galaxies. Created by Azimuth of the Galvan, it contains the DNA of thousands of sentient species. So that's how I can turn into different aliens," Gwen realized. "Precisely. It was designed as a tool of understanding, to allow the user to experience life as other species. A bridge between worlds." Xylene's expression hardened. "But in the wrong hands, it could be a weapon of unimaginable power." "Vilgax's hands," Max interjected. Xylene hissed at the name. "He still lives. I had hoped your last encounter would have been more permanent." "Apparently not. He's been sending drones after the kids. Getting closer each time." "Then you cannot stay here long," Xylene warned. "Vilgax has ways of tracking Galvan technology. We just need information," Max explained. "How to use it properly. Maybe how to remove it safely if necessary." "Remove it?" Xylene laughed, a tinkling sound like wind chimes. "The OMNITRIX was designed to bond with its user at the genetic level. Removing it would be challenging." Gwen felt a chill at these words. "You mean I'm stuck with it forever?" "Not necessarily," Xylene qualified. "But removal would require Azimuth himself, and no one has seen him in decades. He's become something of a recluse." Ben, who had been examining Xylene's lab equipment with barely contained curiosity, looked up. "So what can you tell us? Like, does it have any cool features Gwen hasn't found yet?" "Benjamin," Max warned. "It's a valid question, Grandpa," Gwen defended him. "I'm still figuring this thing out by trial and error." Xylene considered this. The OMNITRIX has many functions beyond transformation. It contains a universal translator, adaptive interface, emergency recall protocols. But its power source is what makes it truly remarkable. "What powers it?" Gwen asked. "A unique energy matrix that draws power from the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Essentially limitless, self-sustaining. Which is why Vilgax wants it," Max concluded. "As a power source for his conquests." "Among other reasons," Xylene agreed. "I can help you understand its basic functions, but time is short. Vilgax's hunters will have tracked your energy signature by now." Before she could elaborate, an alarm blared throughout the lab. Holographic screens activated, showing security camera feeds from around the building. "What is it?" Max asked, instantly alert. "Energy fluctuations," Xylene replied, her tentacles twitching nervously. "Something's draining power from the main grid." On the screens, they watched as lights throughout the building flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the lab in red. "That's not Vilgax's style," Max said, reaching for what looked like a high-tech pistol from a nearby workbench. "No," Xylene agreed. "This is something else." The lab door suddenly exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a teenage boy with dark hair and a permanent sneer. Electricity crackled around his hands as he absorbed power from exposed wiring. "Thanks for the juice," he called, his voice echoing with energy. "But I'm here for the main course." His eyes fixed on Gwen's wrist. "Who are you?" Max demanded, aiming his weapon. "Name's Kevin Levin," the boy replied with a mocking bow. "Energy absorber extraordinaire. And I'm about to be the most powerful person on this planet once I drain that fancy watch." Gwen activated the OMNITRIX, cycling through aliens. "You want it? Try taking it." "Gwen, wait," Xylene cautioned. His abilities, but Gwen had already transformed, green light flashing as she became Diamond Head. "Let's see you absorb crystal, battery boy." Kevin grinned, electricity still dancing between his fingers. "Not what I had in mind." He slammed his hands onto a nearby computer bank, drawing more power until his entire body crackled with energy. "Everybody down!" Max shouted as Kevin released a massive energy blast. Diamond Head created a crystal shield, blocking most of the blast, but the shockwave sent lab equipment flying. Xylene was knocked back against the wall, collapsing in a heap. "Xylene!" Max rushed to her side. "I'm fine," she gasped. Stop him before, Kevin was already moving, leaping across the lab with inhuman agility, hands outstretched toward Gwen. "That watch is mine." "I don't think so." Diamond Head morphed her arm into a blade, swinging it at Kevin. He ducked under the swing, his hand connecting with Gwen's crystalline leg. Instead of trying to absorb Diamond Head's form, he placed something on the OMNITRIX symbol on her chest, a small device that immediately began beeping. "What did you?" The device exploded in a flash of light, disrupting the OMNITRIX's signal and forcing Gwen back to human form. She stumbled backward, momentarily dazed. "Gwen!" Ben shouted, grabbing a fire extinguisher and charging Kevin from behind. "Cute," Kevin laughed, sensing the attack. He spun and fired an energy bolt that caught Ben mid-stride, sending him crashing into a display case. "Ben!" Gwen cried, scrambling to her feet and checking the OMNITRIX. The face was red, recharging mode. "The watch is disabled temporarily," Xylene called. "He's used a Galvan disruption device." Kevin advanced on Gwen, his expression triumphant. "Nothing personal, princess. Just business." Max fired his energy pistol, the blast hitting Kevin square in the chest. Instead of harming him, Kevin simply absorbed the energy, growing stronger. "Thanks for the top-up, old man," he sneered. "Stay away from my granddaughter," Max warned, placing himself between Kevin and Gwen. "Or what?" Kevin challenged, hands glowing with deadly energy. "Or this," came Ben's voice from behind a console. He emerged holding what appeared to be a silver sphere. "Catch!" Ben tossed the device at Kevin, who instinctively caught it. "What's this supposed to?" The sphere expanded, encasing Kevin's hands in a rapidly hardening foam that cut off his connection to the electrical systems. "Energy-dampening containment foam," Ben explained with a grin. "Read the label on the shelf." Kevin struggled against the restraints, his face contorted with rage. "You think this can hold me?" "Long enough," Max replied, approaching with a more substantial-looking weapon. "Stand down, kid. You're out of your depth here." For a moment, it looked like Kevin might continue fighting. Then his shoulders slumped in apparent defeat. "Fine. You got me." Max kept the weapon trained on Kevin while Xylene examined the Omnitrix on Gwen's wrist. "The disruption is temporary. Full functionality should return in approximately 10 of your Earth minutes." "How did he know about the Omnitrix?" Gwen asked, watching Kevin warily. "And how did he get a Galvan device?" "Excellent questions," Xylene agreed, turning to their captive. "You are more than you appear, human child." Kevin smirked. "You got no idea, lady." "Then enlighten us," Max suggested, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Kevin's eyes darted around the lab, calculating. "Finally," he sighed. "Been on my own since I was 10. Found out I could absorb energy, electricity, radiation, whatever. Started small, draining batteries, power lines. Then about a month ago, I felt this pulse. Most powerful energy signature I've ever sensed. The OMNITRIX, Gwen realized. When it first activated." "Bingo," Kevin nodded. "Been tracking it ever since. Getting stronger each time you use it. The energy you put out when you transform. Like a beacon to anyone who knows what to look for." "And the Galvan disruption device?" Xylene pressed. Kevin's expression turned guarded. "Found it." "Lie," Xylene said immediately. "Your physiology shows distinctive stress markers when you deceive." "Fine," Kevin snapped. "Some guy hired me to get the watch. Gave me the tech, promised me a cut of whatever he sells it for." "Some guy?" Max repeated skeptically. "Be specific." "Never saw his face. Communications only. Called himself 66 or something." Max and Xylene exchanged alarmed glances. "A Soderagian bounty hunter," Xylene explained for the children's benefit. "One of Vilgax's preferred mercenaries." "Great," Ben groaned. "Now we've got bounty hunters after us too." The lights in the lab suddenly flickered again. Xylene frowned, checking a nearby console. "That's not right. The power grid is showing massive fluctuations across the city." A new alarm sounded, this one more urgent. Security screens activated, showing multiple views of the city. In the central plaza, a bizarre sight unfolded. Animals, ordinary local wildlife, were growing to enormous size, developing metallic components as they transformed. "What's happening to them?" Gwen asked, watching in horror as a squirrel grew to the size of a car, its tail becoming a metal whip. "Those look like the same mutations from the tourist town," Ben observed. "The ones with the control collars." "Dr. Onimo," Kevin said unexpectedly. "That's his work." All eyes turned to him. "You know about this?" Max demanded. Kevin shrugged as best he could with his hands still encased in foam. "The guy's been all over the underground channels. Crazy scientist, used to work for the government on genetic research. Got fired, went rogue. Now he's all about evolving animals into some kind of superior species. And you know this how? Xylene asked suspiciously. Same person who hired me mentioned Onimo was also after the watch. Competition, I guess. The Omnitrix beeped, its face turning from red to green. I'm back online, Gwen announced. I need to stop those creatures before they hurt someone. We need to stop them, Max corrected. Together. What about him? Ben gestured at Kevin. Max considered their options. He comes with us. We can't leave him here, and we might need what he knows about Onimo. You're joking, Kevin scoffed. Why would I help you? Because if Onimo gets the Omnitrix, your employer won't be happy, Xylene pointed out. And unhappy Soderagians have unpleasant ways of expressing disappointment. Kevin paled slightly. Fine. But I want protection. From 6-6 and from whatever else is coming after that watch. You help us deal with Onimo, we'll talk, Max countered. Xylene, can you secure the lab? The alien nodded. Go. I'll monitor the situation from here and coordinate with any plumber remnants in the area. They hurried to the rust bucket, Kevin's hands still restrained but now attached to a control device on his wrist that Max could activate if needed. This is so bogus, Kevin complained as they drove toward the city center. I should be getting paid for this. You should be in juvenile detention, Gwen retorted. Consider this community service. Ben, watching the city through binoculars, gasped. Guys! The animals are heading for the power plant. The old nuclear facility. Max accelerated, concern etching his features. It's been decommissioned, but there's still residual energy in the core. Nuclear energy, Kevin added with understanding. Way more powerful than anything he could tap from the power grid. What would he want with that much power? Gwen wondered. Kevin gave her a look that suggested the answer should be obvious. Same thing I wanted. To power whatever device he's built to pull the Omnitrix off your wrist. The rust bucket screeched to a halt at the edge of the power plant's security perimeter. Already, the fence had been torn apart by what appeared to be a mutated deer with antlers like metal drills. Game plan? Ben asked as they surveyed the damage. Gwen, you focus on stopping the animals without hurting them, Max instructed. Ben, you're with me, we'll find Onimo and shut down whatever he's using to control these creatures. What about me? Kevin asked. Kind of useless with these. He held up his foam-encased hands. Max considered him for a moment, then reluctantly touched a control on his watch. The foam dissolved, leaving Kevin unrestrained. Don't make me regret this, Max warned. Your energy absorption might be our best counter against Onimo's tech. But try anything, yeah, you'll vaporize me or whatever, Kevin interrupted, rubbing his wrists. Let's just get this over with. Gwen was already selecting an alien on the Omnitrix. 4 arms should be able to handle the bigger mutants, she decided, transforming in a flash of green. I'll never get used to that, Kevin muttered, watching her metamorphosis with a mixture of envy and fascination. The newly transformed 4 arms flexed her 4 massive arms. Let's go wrangle some mutants. She charged toward the breach in the fence. Is she always this gung-ho? Kevin asked as they followed at a more cautious pace. Only when innocent people are in danger, Ben replied. Or when I use her toothbrush. Inside the facility, chaos reigned. Mutated animals prowled between derelict buildings and rusting equipment. At the center stood the main reactor complex, once the heart of the plant, now supposedly dormant. 4 arms engaged a massive wolf-like creature with metal fangs, grappling it away from fleeing security guards. Get these people out of here, she shouted to Max on it. Max and Ben diverted to help the civilians while Kevin, despite himself, found his attention drawn to the battle. Gwen was handling the wolf mutant with impressive skill, using leverage rather than just raw strength. She flipped the creature onto its back, then precisely struck the control collar around its neck. The wolf immediately began shrinking back to normal size. "Huh," Kevin mused. "Not bad." A screech from above warned him just in time to dodge a mutated hawk's talons. The bird's wings gleamed with metal edges sharp enough to slice through the concrete where Kevin had been standing. Acting on instinct, Kevin placed his hand on an electrical junction box, drawing power until his body crackled with energy. He fired a bolt at the hawk, striking its control collar and short-circuiting it. The bird shrank mid-flight, fluttering away in confusion. 4 arms landed beside him, having just dispatched another mutant. "So you can do something besides steal," she observed. "I contain multitudes," Kevin replied dryly. "There are too many of them. We need to find the source." "Agreed. The reactor building is our best bet." 4 arms pointed to the central structure where ominous green light pulsed from the windows. They fought their way through more mutants, an unlikely team developing an even more unlikely rhythm. Kevin would distract the creatures with energy blasts while 4 arms would disable their control collars with precision strikes. "Behind you!" Kevin called as a mutated raccoon launched itself at 4 arms back. She spun, catching it mid-leap. "Thanks. Don't mention it. Seriously, don't." They reached the reactor building to find the entrance blocked by what had once been a simple garden snake, now a 30-foot monstrosity with metallic scales and acid venom that melted the concrete where it dripped. "That's problematic," 4 arms noted. "Allow me," Kevin said with unexpected confidence. He approached the snake, hands raised non-threateningly. To 4 arms' astonishment, the creature didn't attack, instead lowering its head as if recognizing Kevin. "You know this thing?" she asked incredulously. "Onimo's control frequency," Kevin explained, touching the snake's collar carefully. "I figured it out after watching a few encounters. The devices operate on a modulated theta wave." His fingers danced across the collar's surface, making subtle adjustments. "And, now it thinks I'm friendly." The snake moved aside, allowing them passage. 4 arms stared at Kevin with newfound respect, and suspicion. "How do you know so much about this tech?" "I told you, I absorb energy. Not just physically, I understand it, feel how it works." He tapped his temple. "Side effect of my powers. Now are we doing this or what?" Inside the reactor hall, the source of the green light became apparent. Dr. Onimo, a wild-haired man in a modified lab coat with a helmet of blinking apparatus, stood on a platform above the dormant reactor core. He had constructed a bizarre machine around it, siphoning the residual nuclear energy into what looked like a massive gun. "At last!" Onimo crowed. "With this transmodulator enhanced by nuclear power, I can evolve any creature on the planet. The world will bow before my genetically superior army." "That's a new one," 4 arms muttered. "Usually megalomaniacs want to rule the world, not turn it into a zoo." "Onimo's got issues," Kevin agreed. Deep, deep issues. They weren't alone in the vast space. Ben and Max had entered from another door and were crouched behind machinery, assessing the situation. Max caught 4 arms' eye and signaled a coordinated approach. "Distraction time," 4 arms whispered to Kevin. "Think you can handle it?" Kevin smirked, electricity already dancing between his fingers. "Born ready." He stepped into the open, applauding slowly. "Impressive setup, Doc. Really love what you've done with the place." Onimo whirled, his eyes widening behind his goggles. "Levin? What are you doing here?" "Our arrangement was clear, you obtain the OMNITRIX, I provide the extraction technology." 4 arms shot Kevin a betrayed look. "You were working with him too?" "I'm entrepreneurial," Kevin replied without taking his eyes off Onimo. "And speaking of arrangements, Doc, you're going about this all wrong. The OMNITRIX isn't something you can just zap off her wrist." "Silence." Onimo snapped. "I am a genius. I've calculated precisely how to separate the alien DNA from its human host. While Onimo ranted, Max and Ben were quietly working their way around the perimeter, setting up what appeared to be small devices at strategic points. Look, all I'm saying is that your approach lacks finesse, Kevin continued, carefully drawing Onimo's attention away from the others. You're thinking like a biologist when you should be thinking like a physicist. The OMNITRIX works on quantum entanglement principles, not genetic ones. Four arms blinked in surprise. Kevin actually sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Quantum entanglement? Onimo scoffed. Preposterous. The device clearly functions by rewriting the host's DNA on a fundamental level. My transmodulator can reverse that process. And fry the girl in the process, Kevin pointed out. Which defeats the purpose of getting the OMNITRIX intact, doesn't it? Onimo hesitated, his megalomaniacal certainty wavering slightly. The subject's survival is secondary to scientific progress. Yeah, that's not happening, Four Arms announced, stepping into view. Your science fair project is over, Onimo. The OMNITRIX bearer. Onimo's face lit up with maniacal glee. The building. But the transmodulator was still powered by the reactor core, independent of the control signal. Onimo, desperate now, fired the weapon at Four Arms. Look out! Kevin shouted, diving forward and pushing her aside. The beam struck him instead, enveloping him in sickly green energy. Kevin screamed, his body contorting as the ray did something unexpected. Instead of extracting DNA, it seemed to be forcing his energy absorption abilities into overdrive. His skin began to shift, taking on properties of materials he'd recently touched: metal, concrete, crystal. Kevin. Four Arms reached for him, but the energy field surrounding him repelled her. Stay back, he gasped through gritted teeth. Can't control it. Onimo looked on in horrified fascination. Interesting, the transmodulator is activating his latent absorption abilities on a cellular level. He's becoming a composite of everything he's ever absorbed. Shut it down. Max ordered, aiming his energy pistol at Onimo. I can't. The process is self-sustaining now. Onimo backed away from his creation as energy arced wildly from the machine. The reactor core, supposedly dormant, began to glow with increasing intensity. Warning klaxons blared throughout the facility. It's going critical, Max realized. We need to evacuate now. Four Arms looked torn, watching Kevin writhe in agony within the energy field. We can't leave him. You have to. Kevin managed to yell. I'm the one keeping it contained. If I let go, he screamed again as another wave of transformation racked his body. Parts of him were becoming crystalline, like Diamond Head, while others shifted to the fiery appearance of Heat Blast. He's absorbing the alien DNA from the transmodulator's scan of the OMNITRIX, Ben realized. It's changing him. Everyone out. Max grabbed Ben's arm, pulling him toward the exit. Four Arms made one last attempt to reach Kevin, but the energy field had expanded, making approach impossible. I'll come back for you, she promised. Kevin's eyes, now glowing with unnatural energy, fixed on hers. For a brief moment, the cockiness and anger fell away, revealing fear and resignation. Don't bother. Just, go. The OMNITRIX symbol on Four Arms' chest began flashing red, the worst possible timing. As she rushed for the exit, the transformation reversed, leaving Gwen running on human legs that felt impossibly slow and weak after Four Arms' strength. They barely made it outside before the reactor building's roof exploded upward, a column of green energy shooting into the sky. The shockwave knocked them to the ground. Kevin! Gwen cried, struggling to her feet. Max held her back. It's too late, Gwen. As the energy column dissipated, an eerie silence fell over the facility. Then, from the smoking ruins of the reactor building, a figure emerged, but it was no longer entirely Kevin Levin. His body had transformed into a patchwork nightmare, One arm was Diamond Head's crystal, another 4 arms red muscle. His face was half human, half alien, with one eye normal and the other Ripjaw's fish-like orb. Parts of his torso glowed with Heatblast's fire, while one leg had XLR-8 structure. "What's happening to me?" Kevin's voice was distorted, fluctuating between his own and alien tones. "Kevin." Gwen approached cautiously, the Omnitrix still recharging on her wrist. His head snapped up, his expression changing from confusion to rage in an instant. "You. This is your fault." He pointed an accusing finger, now tipped with Wildmutt's claw, at Gwen. "Your alien watch did this to me." "That's not true," Gwen insisted. "It was Onimo's machine, liar." Kevin roared, his heat blast portions flaring brighter. "I can feel them inside me, your aliens, tearing me apart." He clutched his head in agony. "Make it stop." "We can help you," Max said, stepping forward with hands raised non-threateningly. "I know people who understand this kind of transformation." Kevin's laugh was a horrible, multi-toned sound. "Help me? Like you helped me before? With your containment? Foam and your threats?" His body sparked with energy, not just electricity now, but the combined powers of multiple alien forms. "I don't need your help. I need her watch." He pointed at the Omnitrix. "It's the only thing that can fix this." "That's not how it works," Gwen tried to explain. "The Omnitrix doesn't," but Kevin wasn't listening anymore. With a howl of rage and pain, he charged toward them, his mismatched body moving with surprising speed and coordination. Ben grabbed a fallen piece of machinery and hurled it at Kevin's legs, trying to slow him down. "Run!" The impromptu projectile passed right through Kevin as he temporarily shifted to Ghost Freak's spectral form. "Nice try, kid," he snarled, solidifying again. Max fired his energy pistol, the beam striking Kevin directly, only to be absorbed into his patchwork body. "That tickled," Kevin taunted, growing stronger. The Omnitrix finally beeped, turning green again. Gwen didn't hesitate, transforming into XLR-8. "Can't catch what you can't see," she called, zipping around Kevin at super speed. Kevin snarled in frustration, trying to track her movements. Then, to everyone's shock, his legs transformed into a close approximation of XLR-8s, complete with wheel-like structures. He accelerated, matching her speed. "I've got your powers now," he laughed maniacally. "All of them." XLR-8 barely avoided his grasp, skidding to a halt beside Max and Ben. "This is bad," she panted. "Whatever alien I use, he can copy it." "Then don't use aliens," Ben suggested. "Outsmart him." Kevin circled them at high speed, creating a dust devil that obscured visibility. "Nowhere to run," his voice echoed from all directions. "The rust bucket," Max decided. "Now." They made a break for the RV, Kevin's laughter following them. XLR-8 grabbed Ben and Max, using her speed to reach the vehicle first. They piled in, Max immediately firing up the engine. "Wait, what about Onimo?" Ben asked as the rust bucket roared to life. "He won't get far," Max assured them, flooring the accelerator. "I signaled Xylene before we entered the reactor. She'll have authorities en route." As they sped away from the facility, XLR-8 looked back to see Kevin watching them from atop a ruined building, his misshapen form silhouetted against the sky. Even at this distance, she could feel his hatred and pain. "We can't just leave him like that," she said as the Omnitrix timed out, returning her to human form. "He's suffering." "He's dangerous," Max corrected grimly. "More dangerous than before. And he blames you for his condition." "But it wasn't my fault." Gwen protested. "Doesn't matter," Ben said quietly. "He thinks it is. And now he's got a piece of every alien you can turn into." The implications hung heavily in the air. They'd gained an enemy with all of Gwen's powers and none of her restraint. "So what now?" Gwen finally asked. Max checked the rearview mirror before answering. Now we keep moving. And we prepare. Because Kevin won't be the last to come after the Omnitrix. As night fell, they drove in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. None of them noticed the small tracking device Kevin had managed to plant on the rust bucket's underside during their confrontation. In his makeshift lair beneath an abandoned subway station, Kevin struggled to control his fluctuating form. Pain coursed through him as alien DNA battled for dominance within his cells. "They abandoned me," he muttered, his voice shifting between his own and those of Gwen's aliens. "Left me like this, a freak." His hand, momentarily crystalline like diamond heads, closed around a small device that blinked with the rust bucket's location. "But I'll find them again. And next time." His face split in a terrible grin that revealed Ripjaw's teeth. "Next time, the watch will be mine." The tracking screen suddenly flickered, then displayed a new image, a purple-skinned alien with red eyes and breathing apparatus. Kevin recoiled in surprise. "Kevin Levin," the alien's gravelly voice emanated from the device. "I am Vilgax, conqueror of worlds. And I believe we share a common enemy." Kevin's patchwork face contorted with interest. "I'm listening." Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, another player entered the game. A sleek spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness, landing in a remote desert region. 3 figures emerged, a mechanical being with multiple limbs, a crab-like creature with a massive pincer, and a crystalline humanoid similar to Diamond Head but with blue coloration. "Spread out," the crystalline being ordered. "The Omnitrix signature is somewhere on this continent." "And when we find it?" the crab-like creature asked, its pincer snapping eagerly. "We take it," the crystalline being replied coldly. "By any means necessary." Chapter 3, Secrets and Lies. 2 weeks after the Kevin incident, Gwen sat cross-legged on a boulder overlooking a canyon, the morning sun warming her back as she tried, and failed, to meditate. The Omnitrix felt heavier than usual on her wrist, a constant reminder of everything that had happened and everything still at stake. "Focus, Gwen," she muttered to herself. "Clear your mind." But her thoughts kept drifting back to Kevin, his patchwork body, his agonized screams, the hatred in his eyes. She hadn't caused his transformation, not directly, but the guilt clung to her anyway. "Still trying the Zen thing?" Ben's voice broke her concentration as he scrambled up the boulder to join her. "Any luck talking to the watch?" Gwen sighed, opening her eyes. "It's not about talking to the watch, doofus. It's about understanding my connection to it." Right. Spiritual alien mumbo-jumbo. Ben plopped down beside her, dangling his legs over the edge. "But has it worked?" "No," Gwen admitted. "Every time I get close to that calm state, I keep seeing." She trailed off. "Kevin," Ben finished for her. "Yeah, me too." He tossed a pebble into the canyon, watching it disappear. "You know it wasn't your fault, right?" Gwen raised an eyebrow. "Since when did you become the sensitive, supportive cousin?" "Hey, I can be deep sometimes," Ben protested, then grinned. "Besides, if anyone's gonna make you feel bad, it should be me, not you." Despite herself, Gwen smiled. "Thanks. I think." Their moment was interrupted by the rust bucket's horn. Grandpa Max stood beside the RV, waving them over. "Time to go, kids," he called. "We need to reach Rockwell by nightfall." "What's in Rockwell?" Ben asked as they climbed down from the boulder. "Final stop on our summer road trip," Max replied, checking his watch with unusual frequency. "And I have some old friends there I want you to meet." Gwen and Ben exchanged glances. "More plumber friends?" Gwen asked, making air quotes. Max's expression turned serious. "Yes. And after everything that's happened, I think it's time you learned the full story." The ominous statement hung in the air as they piled into the rust bucket. Gwen couldn't shake the feeling that their already strange summer was about to get even weirder. On the road, Max was uncharacteristically quiet, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors as if expecting pursuit. They'd been moving non-stop since the power plant disaster, staying off main highways and avoiding populated areas when possible. "Okay, this is getting ridiculous," Ben finally said, breaking the tense silence. "Are you going to tell us why you're so jumpy, Grandpa?" Max sighed, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "I've been monitoring communications through old plumber channels. There's been increased activity, reports of unauthorized ships entering Earth's atmosphere, energy signatures consistent with advanced weapons technology." "Vilgax?" Gwen asked, unconsciously touching the Omnitrix. "Maybe. But also others. The Omnitrix is coveted. Now that word has spread about its location, we can expect more visitors." "Great," Ben groaned. "More aliens trying to kill us. Just what summer vacation needed." "Not all aliens are hostile," Max reminded him. "Xylene helped us, remember? Before her lab got trashed and she had to go into hiding," Ben pointed out. Gwen had been studying the map spread across the dining table. "Rockwell, why does that name sound familiar?" She pulled out her laptop, typing quickly. "Wait, isn't that where the old plumber base was located? The one you mentioned when you were telling us about your work with alien treaties?" Max looked impressed, and a little concerned. "You remember that?" "I pay attention," Gwen shrugged. "So we're heading to your old base. Is it even operational anymore?" "Not officially," Max hedged. "But some of us maintain certain facilities, just in case. If there's anywhere on Earth we can get answers about the Omnitrix, it's there." The rust bucket crested a hill, revealing a panoramic view of the valley beyond. Rockwell was a small town nestled against a mountain range, looking perfectly ordinary from a distance. "Doesn't look like Alien Central," Ben observed. "That's the point," Max replied with a slight smile. "Best place to hide something is in plain sight." As they drove into town, Gwen noticed subtle details that seemed off: satellite dishes too advanced for a rural community, power lines running toward the mountains where no buildings were visible, and an unusual number of people with military straight posture walking the streets. They pulled into a service station on the edge of town. Instead of driving up to the pumps, Max parked behind the building and killed the engine. "Wait here," he instructed, stepping outside with purpose. Through the windows, they watched him approach an elderly attendant who was sweeping the forecourt. After a brief conversation, the attendant nodded and led Max inside the station's office. "Okay, this is weird even for Grandpa," Ben decided, pressing his face against the glass to keep watch. 5 minutes later, Max emerged with a small device in his hand. He returned to the rust bucket looking simultaneously relieved and tense. "Good news," he announced. "My credentials still work. We've got clearance to enter the facility." "Just like that?" Gwen asked skeptically. "The plumbers might be officially disbanded, but the protocols remain active." Max inserted the device into a hidden slot beneath the rust bucket's dashboard. The RV's console lights changed from their usual configuration, revealing new displays and controls. "Whoa!" Ben exclaimed as a holographic interface appeared. "Our RV is a spaceship." "Not quite," Max chuckled. "But it has a few modifications standard models don't." He engaged a new sequence of controls, and the rust bucket's engine note changed to a deeper, more powerful hum. They drove through town, turning onto a seemingly abandoned fire road that wound into the mountains. After several miles, they reached what appeared to be a dead end, a solid rock face blocking the narrow road. Max pressed a sequence on the new interface. A scanning beam emerged from the rust bucket's headlights, sweeping across the rock face. "Identity confirmed, Maxwell Tennyson, plumber first class, retired," announced a computerized voice. "Welcome back, Magister Tennyson." The rock face shimmered and disappeared, revealed to be a sophisticated hologram concealing a massive steel door that began sliding open. Magister? Ben repeated, eyes wide. That sounds important. Max didn't answer, focusing on driving through the opening. Beyond lay a sloping tunnel carved through the mountain, illuminated by lights that activated as they approached. This is incredible, Gwen whispered, watching the tunnel extend before them. How long has this been here? Since the 1950s, Max replied. Initially built as a fallout shelter, then repurposed when the plumbers established Earth as a monitored sector of space. The tunnel finally opened into a vast underground cavern housing what could only be described as a futuristic compound. Curved buildings of sleek design surrounded a central hub, with landing pads and what appeared to be defensive installations positioned strategically throughout. Most of the facility looked dormant, lights off, doors sealed, but the central building showed signs of life, with illuminated windows and active security systems. Home sweet home, Max said with unmistakable nostalgia as he parked the rust bucket near the main entrance. As they exited the vehicle, the air felt different, cleaner, slightly pressurized, with an almost imperceptible hum of hidden machinery. Maxwell Tennyson, called a deep voice. A tall, broad-shouldered man with close-cropped silver hair emerged from the main building. Thought you'd retired to fishing and watching sunsets. Cooper, Max greeted him with a firm handshake that turned into a brief hug. Good to see you're still kicking. Someone has to keep the lights on, Cooper replied, his eyes shifting to Gwen and Ben. So these are the grandkids you're always bragging about. Ben and Gwen, Max confirmed. Kids, this is William Cooper, one of the best plumbers I ever worked with. Cooper bent down slightly, offering his hand first to Ben, then to Gwen. When he shook Gwen's hand, his eyes flickered to the OMNITRIX with professional assessment rather than surprise. So the rumors are true, he said. One of the Tennysons found the OMNITRIX. You know about this thing? Gwen asked, holding up her wrist. Cooper straightened, exchanging glances with Max. Let's continue this inside. The walls have ears, sometimes literally in this place. The central building's interior was a blend of advanced technology and practical military design. Monitors displayed star charts and what appeared to be surveillance feeds from various Earth locations. A handful of people worked at different stations, all wearing similar utilitarian uniforms with subtle insignia. Cooper led them to a conference room with a large round table. As the door sealed behind them, the air shimmered with an energy field. Privacy shield, Cooper explained, seeing the children's startled expressions. Can't be too careful these days. How bad is it? Max asked, taking a seat at the table. Cooper's face turned grim. 3 unauthorized entries in the past week. Energy signatures match known bounty hunters, including 6-6. Gwen stiffened at the name. Kevin mentioned him. Said 6-6 hired him to get the OMNITRIX. Makes sense, Cooper nodded. 6-6 works exclusively for Vilgax these days. But he's not alone, we've detected Krob and another signature we can't precisely identify. 3 hunters, Max mused, stroking his chin. Vilgax isn't taking chances. What exactly is the OMNITRIX? Ben interrupted. Everyone keeps talking about how valuable it is, but nobody explains why. Cooper looked to Max, who nodded permission. The OMNITRIX was created by Azimuth of the Galvan, probably the most intelligent being in 5 galaxies. It was designed as the ultimate repository of sentient DNA from across the universe. I know that part, Gwen said impatiently. But what's its purpose? Why create something like this? According to the intelligence we gathered, Cooper continued, it was meant to foster understanding between species, allowing the wearer to literally walk in another being's shoes, or tentacles, or whatever. Experience different forms of life firsthand. So it's basically an alien cultural exchange program? Ben asked skeptically. That was Azimuth's stated purpose, Cooper agreed. But a device with the complete genetic codes of thousands of species has other potential applications. Like weapons, Max said grimly. Someone like Vilgax could use it to create the perfect army, soldiers with the combined powers of the universe's most dangerous species. Gwen looked down at the Omnitrix with new understanding and discomfort. So I'm wearing the alien version of a nuclear bomb. More like a genetic library that could be misused, Cooper corrected. In itself, it's not a weapon, unless the wielder chooses to use it that way. The conversation was interrupted by an alarm from Cooper's wrist device. He checked it, frowning. Perimeter alert. Something just entered our airspace. Max was instantly on his feet. Bounty hunters? Unknown, Cooper replied, already moving toward the door. But it's coming in fast and not responding to identification requests. They followed him to the command center, where operators were tracking an incoming object on multiple screens. It's small, one technician reported. Single-occupant vessel, minimal weapons signature. Bring defense systems online, Cooper ordered. But hold fire until we identify. The main screen showed a sleek craft descending toward the facility, its design unlike anything Gwen had seen before, angular yet somehow organic. It's requesting landing clearance, another operator announced with surprise. Using Old Plumber emergency codes. Cooper and Max exchanged puzzled looks. Those codes haven't been active for years, Max said. Patch me through, Cooper decided. The operators established a communication link, and Cooper spoke clearly. Unidentified craft, this is Plumber Outpost Rockwell. Identify yourself and state your business. The response came through with static interference. Outpost Rockwell, this is Scout Ship Nebula. Requesting emergency landing in Sanctuary. Carrying information critical to Earth's security. Voice pattern unknown, a technician reported. But the ship's signature matches Petrosapien design. Petrosapien? Ben whispered to Gwen. Like your diamond head form? She nodded, suddenly very interested in this mysterious arrival. Max stepped forward. This is Magister Tennyson. State your full identity and verification code. A pause, then, verification code Tetrax 7 Delta 9. Identity, complicated. Request face-to-face verification. Max's expression shifted to cautious recognition. Grant landing clearance, he told Cooper. But maintain security protocols. You know this person? Cooper asked. I know the verification code, Max replied. It belongs to a Petrosapien informant who helped us during the Talpidian conflict. But that was 15 years ago. The command center's atmosphere was tense as they watched the craft make a perfect landing on one of the auxiliary pads. Security personnel took positions around the perimeter while Cooper, Max, and the children observed from the safety of the command center. The ship's hatch opened smoothly, and a figure emerged, humanoid but clearly alien, with a crystalline body similar to Gwen's diamond head form but blue-tinted rather than green. A Petrosapien, Gwen breathed, fascinated to see the species she could transform into in its natural state. The alien raised his hands to show he was unarmed, then removed his helmet, revealing a face of angular crystal with glowing eyes. I am Tetrax Shard, the alien announced. Last survivor of Petropia, and I've come with a warning about the Omnitrix. 20 minutes later. They were back in the conference room. Tetrax had been scanned for weapons, finding several sophisticated ones that he surrendered willingly, and subjected to identity verification that seemed to satisfy Max and Cooper. The situation is worse than you know, Tetrax was explaining. Vilgax isn't just sending bounty hunters, he's coming himself. My intelligence suggests his ship will reach Earth within 72 hours. Vilgax is still recovering from his last encounter, Max said, with a pointed glance that suggested he was personally involved in that encounter. His life support systems were severely damaged. He's made modifications, Tetrax countered. Cybernetic enhancements, genetic treatments. He's more dangerous than before, and utterly fixated on acquiring the Omnitrix. Gwen felt the weight of attention shift to her. Why me? Why did this thing attach to me in the first place? Tetrax studied her with unreadable crystal eyes. The OMNITRIX was designed to seek out the most compatible DNA signature within range of its landing. Something in your genetic makeup made you the optimal host. Lucky me, Gwen muttered. You've been using it, Tetrax observed. I can detect trace energy patterns consistent with multiple transformations. Gwen nodded cautiously. I've transformed into 10 different aliens so far. Including a form like yours, Diamond Head. A flicker of what might have been emotion crossed Tetrax's crystalline features. My people are extinct, Petropia was destroyed. The OMNITRIX contains perhaps the last pure Petrosapien DNA in existence. The revelation landed heavily. Gwen had been transforming into a member of an extinct species without even realizing it. I'm sorry about your planet, she said softly. Tetrax inclined his head in acknowledgement. Which is why the OMNITRIX must be protected at all costs. It's not just a device, it's a repository of countless civilizations, some of which no longer exist elsewhere. So what's your plan? Max asked, his tone suggesting he wasn't entirely convinced of Tetrax's motives. First, we need to prepare the girl, Tetrax replied. If she's going to wield the OMNITRIX against Vilgax, she needs proper training. Hang on, Ben interjected. Who said anything about Gwen fighting Vilgax? This guy sounds like bad news. Shouldn't we, I don't know, call in the military or something? Tetrax made a sound like crystals clinking together, apparently a laugh. Your planet's military would be as effective against Vilgax as a paper shield against a plasma cannon. Ben's right, Max said firmly. Gwen is 10 years old. She's not facing Vilgax. With respect, Magister, Tetrax replied, she may not have a choice. Vilgax will find her, with or without our intervention. Better she be prepared. A tense silence followed, broken by Gwen's quiet but determined voice. I want the training. All heads turned to her. Gwen, Max began. No, Grandpa, she interrupted. This is my responsibility now. I didn't ask for the OMNITRIX, but I've got it. And I've been using it to help people. I can't just hide and hope Vilgax goes away. Max looked like he wanted to argue further, but something in Gwen's expression stopped him. Fine. But I'll be overseeing this training. And at the first sign of Vilgax, we're evacuating to the secure facility in Mount Rushmore. Tetrax nodded agreement. We begin immediately. Time is not our ally. While Tetrax prepared a training regimen for Gwen, Ben found himself increasingly sidelined. He wandered the facility, a strange mix of boredom and anxiety churning inside him. Stupid alien watch, he muttered, kicking at a non-responsive control panel in an empty corridor. If it had landed near me instead of Gwen, I'd be the one training to fight alien warlords. Jealousy is an inefficient emotion, came Tetrax's voice from behind him. Ben spun around, embarrassed at being caught. I'm not jealous, he protested unconvincingly. I'm just bored. Tetrax studied him with those unsettling crystal eyes. Your cousin carries a heavy burden. She will need allies, not competitors. I know that, Ben sighed. And I've been helping. But what am I supposed to do against Vilgax? I don't have superpowers or alien technology or anything useful. Intelligence and courage are useful, Tetrax countered. And from what I've observed, you possess both. Perhaps you simply haven't found your role yet. Before Ben could respond, an alarm echoed through the corridor. Tetrax immediately straightened, his hand moving to a weapon he no longer carried. What's happening? Ben asked, anxiety spiking. Perimeter breach, Tetrax replied, already moving toward the command center. It appears our hunters have found us. Ben raced after him, struggling to keep up with the Petrosapiens' longer strides. By the time they reached the command center, chaos had erupted. Security feeds showed multiple points of attack, a mechanical being with multiple limbs scaling the outer defenses, a crab-like creature burrowing through the ground, and explosive charges detonating against the main entrance. 6-6, Krob, and the third hunter, Cooper identified grimly. They've coordinated their assault. Max was already organizing the facility's defenders, directing them to defensive positions with the authority of someone who had commanded troops before. Where's Gwen? Ben demanded, searching the room for his cousin. Training facility, level B2, an operator replied. We've activated lockdown protocols, she should be secure. Should be isn't good enough, Max growled. Ben, stay here where it's safe. Cooper, with me. As Max and Cooper rushed toward the elevator, Tetrax hesitated, looking between the command center and the security feed showing the attacker's progress. Protect the Omnitrix bearer, he finally said to Ben. I'll delay them as long as possible. With surprising speed, the crystalline alien sprinted toward the main entrance. Ben stood awkwardly in the command center as the remaining staff coordinated defense efforts. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The bounty hunters were clearly experienced in breaching secure facilities, disabling systems faster than they could be rerouted. They're inside the East Wing, someone reported. Security team not responding. Another voice, Krob has breached level B1. He's directly above the training facility. Ben made his decision. I need to get to Gwen, he announced, moving toward the emergency stairwell. Kid, you can't, an operator began, but Ben was already gone, the door slamming behind him. The emergency stairwell was dimly lit by red backup lights, casting everything in an eerie glow. Ben descended as quickly as he dared, his heart pounding. 2 levels down, he heard the unmistakable sound of combat, energy weapons discharging, metal striking metal. Pausing at the B2 door, Ben peered through the small window. The corridor beyond was a battlefield. Security personnel lay unconscious or worse, and the crab-like alien, Krob, was methodically blasting through the reinforced door to the training facility. Come out, little Omnitrix bearer, Krob called in a rasping, mechanical voice. Vilgax pays well for prompt delivery. Behind the partially breached door, Ben caught a glimpse of green light, Gwen transforming. A moment later, the door exploded outward as 4 arms charged through, tackling Krob with all her considerable strength. Delivery cancelled, 4 arms growled, driving Krob into the wall with enough force to crack the reinforced concrete. Krob recovered quickly, his mechanical pincer clamping around one of 4 arms' wrists. Tetraman strength. Impressive, but predictable. An electric current surged from the pincer, causing 4 arms to cry out in pain. Ben looked around frantically for a weapon, something to help. His eyes landed on a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. Not much against alien bounty hunters, but better than nothing. As 4 arms and Krob grappled, Ben slipped into the corridor, creeping toward the extinguisher. Neither combatant noticed him. Krob was too focused on subduing Gwen, and Gwen was struggling to break free of the electrified pincer. Ben reached the extinguisher and yanked it from its mounting. The noise caught Krob's attention, his mechanical head swiveling toward Ben. 2 humans for the price of 1, Krob observed. Vilgax didn't mention a companion. I'm more than a companion, Ben retorted, aiming the extinguisher. I'm a Tennyson. He depressed the handle, sending a cloud of chemical suppressant directly into Krob's optical sensors. The bounty hunter reared back, momentarily blinded. 4 arms seized the opportunity, breaking free and delivering a powerful 4-armed uppercut that sent Krob crashing through the ceiling. Ben! 4 arms exclaimed. What are you doing here? It's not safe. Saving your butt, looks like, Ben replied with more bravado than he felt. We need to move, there are 2 more of these guys, and they've broken in 2. 4 arms nodded, then gasped as the Omnitrix symbol on her chest began flashing red. Not now. The transformation reversed, leaving Gwen human and vulnerable just as the ceiling collapsed further. Krob dropped back down, looking damaged but operational. Nowhere to run, humans, he growled, advancing on them. Ben stepped in front of Gwen, fire extinguisher raised like a club. "Stay back, crab cake." A crystalline spike suddenly protruded through Crab's chest, freezing him mid-step. Behind the bounty hunter stood Tetrax, his arm extended and formed into a deadly point. "Get to safety," Tetrax ordered, withdrawing his arm blade. Crab collapsed, sparking and twitching. "Is he?" Gwen couldn't finish the question. "Temporarily disabled," Tetrax assured her. "But 6-6 and the third hunter are still active. We need to reach the secure vault." They followed Tetrax through the facility's winding corridors, the sounds of battle echoing all around them. The Petrosapien moved with deadly efficiency, navigating the complex with surprising familiarity. "How do you know your way around so well?" Ben asked suspiciously. "I studied the facility schematics before landing," Tetrax replied without looking back. "Standard protocol for any mission." Something about the answer bothered Ben, but he couldn't pinpoint why. Before he could press further, they reached a massive vault door. "In here," Tetrax directed, interfacing with the security panel. The door swung open, revealing a circular chamber with no apparent exit. "This doesn't look very secure," Gwen observed as they entered. "Where's Grandpa? And Cooper?" "Still defending the main entrance, last I saw," Tetrax replied, sealing the vault door behind them. "This chamber has independent life support and communications. We can regroup and plan our next move." The OMNITRIX beeped, signaling it had recharged. Gwen immediately began turning the dial. "We should go help them. With the right alien, I can." "Wait," Ben interrupted, that nagging suspicion crystallizing into clarity. "How did you know about Mount Rushmore?" Tetrax paused. "What?" "Earlier, when Grandpa mentioned evacuating to Mount Rushmore. You didn't ask what he meant. You just nodded, like you already knew about a top-secret plumber base that hasn't been active for years." Tetrax's crystalline features remained impassive, but his posture shifted subtly. "Ben, what are you doing?" Gwen hissed. "And you're awfully concerned about getting Gwen somewhere secure," Ben continued, the pieces falling into place. "Almost like you want to isolate her." Tetrax's shoulders slumped slightly, then straightened with new resolve. "You're more perceptive than I anticipated, Ben Tennyson." In a lightning-fast movement, Tetrax's hand transformed into a crystalline restraint that clamped around Gwen's wrist, the one wearing the OMNITRIX. "What are you doing?" Gwen demanded, trying to pull free. "Completing my mission," Tetrax replied, his voice now cold and professional. "The OMNITRIX must be delivered to its rightful owner." "Vilgax," Ben spat the name. "You're working for him." "A temporary arrangement," Tetrax corrected. "The OMNITRIX is too powerful to remain with an untrained human child, regardless of its compatibility with her." "So everything you told us was a lie?" Gwen asked, still struggling against the crystalline restraint. "Not everything," Tetrax admitted. "Petropia was destroyed. And Vilgax is coming. But he sent me ahead to secure the OMNITRIX before his arrival." The vault door suddenly shuddered under a massive impact. Dents appeared in the reinforced metal as something powerful struck it repeatedly. "That would be 6-6, Tetrax noted calmly. "My colleague." "Some colleague," Ben scoffed. "You locked him out." "A necessary deception. I needed to isolate the OMNITRIX bearer first." Tetrax produced a small device from his armor. "This will temporarily deactivate the OMNITRIX, allowing for safe transport." As he moved to attach it to the watch, Ben launched himself at Tetrax, tackling the much larger alien. It was like hitting a brick wall, but the surprise was enough to make Tetrax stumble. "Run, Gwen!" Ben shouted, clinging to Tetrax's back. Gwen didn't waste the opportunity. She slammed her hand down on the OMNITRIX dial, transforming into Ghost Freak, a spectral, phantom-like alien. Her now intangible form easily slipped through Tetrax's restraint. "Clever," Tetrax acknowledged, finally dislodging Ben with a careful but firm toss. "But futile." The vault door buckled inward as 6-6 finally broke through. The mechanical bounty hunter stormed in, weapons bristling from every appendage. He spoke in a series of clicks and electronic sounds that somehow conveyed irritation. "Yes, I know the plan was to corner her together," Tetrax replied. "Plans change. She's using the ectoneurite form, spectral, intangible. Standard containment won't work." 6-6 made another series of sounds, targeting systems locking onto Ghost Freak's floating form. "No," Tetrax warned. "Damage to the Omnitrix is unacceptable. Use the phase disruptors." 6-6 reluctantly adjusted his weapons, firing a beam that seemed to distort the air itself. When it passed through Ghost Freak, she solidified momentarily, crying out in pain. "Phase disruptors force spectral beings back into tangible form," Tetrax explained, almost apologetically. "It's painful but temporary." Ben, having recovered from being thrown, looked around desperately for another weapon. His eyes landed on a control panel near the wall. Acting on instinct, he smashed his fist into the emergency override button. Alarms blared, and the chamber's lighting shifted to deep red. "Emergency protocol activated," announced an automated voice. "Initiating vault purge in 30 seconds. "What did you do?" Tetrax demanded, momentarily distracted. "No idea," Ben admitted with a reckless grin. "But it sounded important." 6-6 fired again, catching Ghost Freak with another phase disruptor beam. This time, Gwen couldn't maintain the transformation. In a flash of red light, she reverted to human form, collapsing to her knees. "Gwen." Ben moved toward her, but 6-6 blocked his path, mechanical limbs extending to create a barrier. 20 seconds to purge," the automated voice continued. "All personnel evacuate immediately." Tetrax's expression shifted to alarm. "Vault purge, they're going to flood this chamber with depressurized gas." "We need to abort." "Too late," came a familiar voice from the broken doorway. Grandpa Max stood there, looking battered but determined, with Cooper and several security personnel behind him. "Nobody takes my grandkids." 6-6 spun, weapons reorienting toward the new threat. Max didn't flinch, raising what appeared to be an oversized weapon prototype. "Last chance, Tetrax," Max warned. "Stand down." Tetrax assessed the situation with professional detachment. "This isn't over, Tennyson." In a swift movement, he grabbed 6-6 and activated something on his belt. Both bounty hunters disappeared in a flash of teleportation energy. 10 seconds to purge, the automated voice reminded them cheerfully. "Override code Tennyson Alpha 6, Max barked. The alarms immediately ceased. "Purge sequence aborted," the voice confirmed. "Have a nice day." Max rushed to Gwen, helping her to her feet. "Are you hurt? What did they do to you?" "I'm okay," Gwen assured him, though she looked shaken. "Just some kind of energy that disrupted Ghost Freak's form." Ben figured out Tetrax was working for Vilgax. Max turned to Ben with newfound respect. "Quick thinking, son." Ben shrugged, embarrassed by the praise. He slipped up. "Knew too much about plumber stuff." "We need to move," Cooper interrupted. "The facility's compromised. Krob's already recovered and escaped. It's only a matter of time before they regroup for another attempt." Max nodded grimly. "Mount Rushmore it is. Pack up only what's essential. We leave in 10 minutes. As they prepared to evacuate, the Omnitrix on Gwen's wrist suddenly activated on its own, projecting a holographic image above it. The figure was small, gray, with a large head and familiar features. A Galvan, Cooper identified with surprise. The hologram spoke, "This is Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha. Omnitrix detected in proximity to known hostiles. Initiating defensive measures and distress beacon. Attention bearer, danger imminent. Seek assistance from designated plumber frequencies." The message repeated once, then the hologram vanished. It can do that? Gwen stared at the device in wonder. Apparently it has more features than we realized, Max replied. And it just broadcast our location to every receiver capable of picking up Galvan frequencies. Including Vilgax, Cooper added grimly. Then we definitely need to move, Max concluded. Now. The evacuation was organized chaos. Essential equipment was loaded into specialized vehicles while non-critical personnel dispersed to backup locations. The rust bucket, now revealed to contain significantly more advanced technology than it appeared, was prepped for immediate departure. What about Tetrax and the other bounty hunters? Gwen asked as they prepared to leave. Won't they just follow us? Not immediately, Cooper assured her, checking a tracking system. Their ship departed Earth's atmosphere right after they teleported out. They're regrouping with their main vessel. Vilgax's ship, Max translated grimly. They're reporting their failure directly. So we have a head start, Ben concluded. How far is Mount Rushmore from here? About 6 hours at normal driving speed, Max replied. But the rust bucket has some modifications for situations like this. Those modifications became apparent as soon as they cleared the facility's hidden exit. Max engaged a sequence of controls, and the RV's engine roared with newfound power. The landscape outside began blurring as they accelerated far beyond what should have been possible for a vehicle of its size and shape. Inertial dampeners are holding, Max reported, checking instruments that had appeared from hidden panels. We'll reach the Mount Rushmore facility in under 2 hours. Ben and Gwen sat at the dining table, still processing everything that had happened. Cooper had joined Max in the front, monitoring communication channels for signs of pursuit. You were pretty smart back there, Gwen finally said to Ben. Figuring out Tetrax was lying. Ben tried to play it cool, but couldn't hide his smile. Yeah, well, someone had to use their brain while you were busy turning into aliens. Seriously, though, Gwen persisted. You saved me. If you hadn't realized he was working for Vilgax, you'd have figured it out eventually, Ben shrugged. You're the smart one, remember? Maybe we're both smart, just in different ways. Ben considered this, then nodded. I'll accept that. Their moment of cousin bonding was interrupted by a violent shake that rocked the entire RV, warning lights flashed across the dashboard. We've got company. Cooper called from the front. Aerial pursuit, coming in fast. Through the rust bucket's windows, they glimpsed a sleek craft swooping low over them, its weapon systems glowing ominously. It's not one of the bounty hunters, Max reported, checking the scanner. Different energy signature. The pursuing craft fired again, the blast striking the road ahead of them. Max swerved expertly, avoiding the crater that formed. We can't outrun them in open terrain, Cooper assessed. We need cover. Max nodded grimly, spinning the wheel toward a dense forest that bordered the highway. The rust bucket lurched off-road, vegetation crunching beneath its wheels as they plunged into the tree line. Gwen, can you see who's following us? Max called back. Gwen moved to the rear window, activating the OMNITRIX's dial to illuminate the view. What she saw made her gasp. It's Kevin, she exclaimed. He's flying some kind of alien ship. Kevin Levin? Cooper asked in disbelief. The energy absorber from the power plant? The very same, Max confirmed grimly. And if he's got alien technology now? He's working with Vilgax, Ben finished the thought. Just like Tetrax said. The craft pursuing them slowed, hovering above the tree canopy as they delved deeper into the forest. For a moment, it seemed they might have escaped. Then the trees ahead erupted in flames as energy beams cut through the canopy. He's trying to flush us out, Max realized, swerving again to avoid the burning vegetation. Or just roast us alive, Ben suggested unhelpfully. Gwen was already turning the OMNITRIX dial. I need to stop him before he burns down the whole forest. Gwen, wait, Max began, but she had already slammed down on the dial. Green light filled the RV as Gwen transformed into Stinkfly, a four-winged insectoid alien with a tail that could fire adhesive goo. Without waiting for discussion, she yanked open the emergency hatch in the ceiling and flew out. Gwen. Max called after her, but she was already engaging Kevin's ship, firing globs of goo at its engines and weapon systems. Kevin's voice boomed from the ship's external speakers, "Come to play, Tennyson." Perfect timing. The craft spun, targeting systems locking onto Stinkfly's agile form. Gwen dodged the first volley of energy blasts, her four wings giving her remarkable maneuverability between the trees. "Kevin, stop," she called. "Whatever Vilgax promised you, he's lying." "Don't care," Kevin replied, continuing to fire. "All I want is that watch, and maybe a little payback for what happened to me." Through the ship's viewport, Gwen could see Kevin's condition had deteriorated. His body was now even more of a patchwork nightmare, with different alien parts seemingly at war with each other. Parts of him glowed with uncontrolled energy while others appeared to be deteriorating. Stinkfly fired more adhesive at the ship's thrusters, finally clogging one enough to affect its stability. The craft lurched, nearly clipping the treetops. "You're just making me mad now," Kevin shouted, the ship suddenly accelerating directly at her. Gwen barely dodged, the ship's wing grazing her and sending her spiraling into the canopy. She crashed through branches, momentarily stunned. Kevin brought the ship around for another pass, weapons charging for what would likely be a fatal shot. Before he could fire, something struck the craft from below, energy blasts from the rust bucket's concealed weapons. "Get away from my granddaughter." Max's voice thundered from the RV's communication system. Kevin's ship shuddered under the impact but remained airborne. It turned its attention to the rust bucket, firing a barrage that forced Max to execute a series of evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible in an RV. Recovering, Stinkfly launched herself back into the battle. She landed on the ship's hull, using her strength to pry open an access panel. Inside, she fired goo directly into the control systems. The effect was immediate. The ship's engine sputtered, and it began a controlled but inevitable descent. "You'll pay for that." Kevin's voice snarled from within. As the ship settled on the forest floor, the hatch blew open. Kevin emerged, his misshapen body crackling with volatile energy. Parts of him had taken on characteristics of Gwen's alien forms, while others remained disturbingly human. "Look what you did to me, Tennyson," he growled, gesturing at his patchwork form. "I'm falling apart. The aliens inside me are tearing me up from the inside out." Stinkfly landed a safe distance away. "I didn't do this to you, Kevin. Onimo's machine did. But I want to help you." "Help me?" Kevin laughed bitterly. "The only help I need is getting that watch off your wrist." He fired a blast of energy, a corrupted version of Heat Blast's flame, that Stinkfly barely avoided. The rust bucket pulled up nearby, and Max emerged with what appeared to be a high-tech weapon. "Stand down, Kevin," he ordered. "You're sick. We can get you treatment." "I'm beyond treatment, old man," Kevin replied, his voice shifting between his own and alien tones. "Vilgax is the only one who can fix me now. He promised to stabilize my condition once I bring him the OMNITRIX." "And you believe him?" Ben called from the RV doorway. "The same guy who sends bounty hunters to do his dirty work?" Kevin hesitated, conflict evident in his distorted features. "I don't have a choice. I'm dying. The alien DNA is becoming incompatible with my human cells." The OMNITRIX symbol on Stinkfly's head suddenly beeped, the transformation timing out. In a flash of red light, Gwen returned to human form, standing vulnerable before Kevin's volatile power. Kevin's expression shifted to predatory triumph. Perfect timing. He lunged forward, hands outstretched toward the OMNITRIX. Max fired his weapon, the energy beam striking Kevin but merely being absorbed into his unstable form. "Bad move," Kevin grinned, growing stronger from the energy. Ben, seeing his cousin in danger, grabbed the nearest object from the rust bucket, a fire extinguisher, and charged Kevin from behind. He slammed it against Kevin's head with all his strength. The impact barely fazed Kevin, who turned slowly to regard Ben with irritation. "Seriously, kid? A fire extinguisher? Worth a try," Ben shrugged, then pulled the pin and sprayed the chemical directly into Kevin's face. Kevin stumbled back, momentarily blinded. Gwen used the distraction to put distance between them, moving behind Max, the OMNITRIX, she said suddenly. "It contains the pure alien DNA. Maybe it can help stabilize Kevin's condition. Or maybe it'll make him even more powerful and unstable," Max countered. "It's too risky." Kevin, recovering his vision, laughed darkly. "Finally figured it out, huh? That's exactly why Vilgax wants it, pure, uncorrupted alien DNA. Do you have any idea how valuable that is?" Before anyone could respond, the forest around them lit up with blinding light from above. A massive shadow fell over the clearing as an enormous ship descended through the atmosphere, easily 100 times larger than Kevin's small craft. "He's here," Kevin announced with grim satisfaction. "Vilgax has arrived." The ship hovered ominously, its hull bristling with weapons that made Kevin's craft look like a toy in comparison. A beam of light shot down from its underside, resolving into a teleportation field around Gwen. "No!" Max shouted, lunging toward her, but it was too late. Gwen disappeared in a flash of light, transported aboard Vilgax's vessel. "Gwen!" Ben cried, staring in horror at the space where his cousin had been standing. Kevin's laughter cut through their shock. "Contract fulfilled. Time to collect my cure." Another teleportation beam enveloped him, and he too vanished. Max's face hardened into a mask of cold fury. "Cooper," he called into his communicator. "Emergency Protocol Xylene 7. Authorization Tennyson Prime." "Understood," Cooper's voice replied from inside the rust bucket. "Activating now." The RV's exterior began to shift, panels opening to reveal advanced weapon systems. The entire vehicle seemed to reconfigure itself, transforming from a simple recreational vehicle into a heavily armed assault craft. "What's happening?" Ben asked, backing away from the metamorphosing vehicle. "Plan B," Max replied grimly. "We're going after them." Aboard Vilgax's ship, Gwen found herself in a circular chamber with smooth metal walls. Energy fields shimmered around her, forming a containment cell that hummed with power. The famous OMNITRIX, a deep, gravelly voice observed from the shadows. "And its temporary bearer." Gwen stood her ground as a massive figure emerged into the light. Vilgax was even more terrifying than she had imagined, towering nearly 9 feet tall, with red eyes glowing from a face partially obscured by breathing apparatus. His muscular green body was enhanced with cybernetic implants that pulsed with energy. "I'm not its temporary bearer," Gwen replied, proud that her voice didn't shake. "The OMNITRIX chose me." "A cosmic accident," Vilgax dismissed. "A device of such power was never meant for a human child." He circled her containment field, studying her with predatory interest. "Still, you've managed to activate several of its functions. Impressive, for a primitive species." "If we're so primitive, why do you want our planet?" Gwen challenged. Vilgax's expression might have been a smile behind his breathing mask. "Intelligence. You assume I want conquest when my goal is much simpler, acquisition. Earth is irrelevant except as the current location of the OMNITRIX." Kevin entered the chamber, his unstable form crackling with energy. "I delivered her, as promised. Now fix me." Vilgax regarded Kevin with something between amusement and disdain. "The human energy absorber. Your condition has deteriorated. That's why I'm here." Kevin snapped. "You promised to stabilize me once I brought you the OMNITRIX." "And so I shall," Vilgax agreed, gesturing to a nearby door. "My medical bay is prepared. My drones will begin your treatment immediately." Kevin hesitated, glancing between Vilgax and Gwen. What about her? What happens to her? The Omnitrix will be removed, Vilgax stated coldly. The process may not be survivable for the host. But that is no longer your concern. Uncertainty flickered across Kevin's patchwork face. You said you just wanted to watch. You didn't mention killing her. I said I wanted the Omnitrix intact, Vilgax corrected. The human survival was never part of our agreement. Kevin's eyes met Gwen's through the energy field. Something passed between them, recognition, perhaps, or understanding. That wasn't the deal, Kevin said, turning back to Vilgax. The deal has evolved, Vilgax replied dismissively. Now go receive your treatment, or remain in your deteriorating state. The choice is yours. After a moment of visible internal struggle, Kevin turned and left through the indicated door, not looking back at Gwen. He'll betray you too, Gwen told Vilgax once Kevin had gone. Just like you're betraying him. Vilgax appeared unmoved. Betrayal implies trust. We merely had an arrangement of convenience. He approached a control panel, activating a sequence that caused a mechanical arm to descend from the ceiling. Now, let us proceed with the extraction. The arm positioned itself above Gwen's containment field, equipped with sinister-looking tools clearly designed for removing the Omnitrix, by force if necessary. The process will begin with neural disconnection, Vilgax explained with clinical detachment. The Omnitrix has integrated with your nervous system. Severing those connections will be unpleasant. Gwen tried activating the Omnitrix, but the energy field seemed to be suppressing its functions. It won't work for you, she warned. It's bonded to me. A temporary bond that can be overwritten, Vilgax countered. Once I have the device, I will unlock its true potential, the complete genetic codes of 10,000 worlds. The mechanical arm penetrated the containment field, reaching for Gwen's wrist. She backed away, but the field limited her movement. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, throwing even Vilgax off balance. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. What now? Vilgax snarled, checking a nearby monitor. His eyes widened slightly. Impossible. On the screen, Gwen could see a transformed version of the Rust Bucket, now a sleek, weaponized craft, firing continuously at Vilgax's ship. Grandpa, she whispered, hope surging. Futile resistance, Vilgax growled, activating communication systems. Destroy the human vessel. Before his orders could be carried out, another explosion, this one from within the ship, shook the chamber. The containment field around Gwen flickered and died. Tetrax burst into the room, his crystalline body reflecting the emergency lighting. This has gone far enough, Vilgax. Tetrax. Gwen exclaimed in confusion. You're working for Vilgax. Was working for Vilgax, Tetrax corrected, moving to position himself between Gwen and the warlord. My debt is paid. The rest was an act to gain access to his ship. Vilgax's eyes narrowed dangerously. Petrosapian treachery. I should have expected this. You destroyed my world, Tetrax replied, his voice hard as his crystal body. Did you think I would ever truly serve you? Understanding dawned on Gwen. You were using Vilgax to get close to the Omnitrix. Tetrax nodded. To ensure it didn't fall into his hands. The Omnitrix represents the last genetic record of countless species, including my own. I couldn't allow it to become a weapon. Vilgax laughed, a chilling sound like grinding metal. Noble sentiments from the bounty hunter who once sold his own people's safety for profit. Tetrax visibly flinched at the accusation. A mistake I've spent decades trying to atone for. Another explosion rocked the ship. Tetrax used the distraction to grab Gwen and make for the exit. This isn't over, Petrosapian. Vilgax roared, launching himself after them with surprising speed for his massive size. Tetrax hurled crystal shards behind them, temporarily slowing Vilgax's pursuit. The Omnitrix, he said to Gwen as they ran. Can you transform? Gwen checked the device, now glowing green again. Yes. Then do it. Tetrax urged as Vilgax's footsteps thundered closer. Something fast. Gwen didn't need to be told twice. She activated the dial, selecting XLR8's silhouette and transforming in a flash of green light. Her now accelerated perception made the world seem to slow around her. Follow me. Tetrax directed, leading her through the ship's corridors at a pace that would have been impossible to match in human form. They encountered resistance, robotic drones that Tetrax dispatched with ruthless efficiency, crystal shards piercing vital systems. XLR8 zipped between larger opponents, using her speed to create confusion and chaos. Where are we going? She asked, her voice accelerated to match her speed. Escape pods, Tetrax replied. Your grandfather is creating a distraction, but this ship has enough firepower to vaporize his vessel if Vilgax gets control of the weapon systems. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with 66 and Krob, who had clearly been summoned to intercept them. Go! Tetrax shouted, engaging both bounty hunters simultaneously. The pods are through that door. I'll hold them off. XLR8 hesitated for a split second before racing past the fighting aliens. True to Tetrax's directions, she found a bank of escape pods beyond the indicated door. She was about to enter one when a familiar voice stopped her. Leaving so soon, Tennyson? Kevin stepped from the shadows, his patchwork body even more unstable than before. Parts of him seemed to be dissolving and reforming continuously. Kevin, XLR8 acknowledged cautiously. I thought you were getting your treatment. Kevin's laugh was bitter and distorted. Turns out the cure was just another containment chamber. Vilgax never intended to help me, just study me, then dispose of me. His mismatched eyes fixed on her. But I can still get what I need. The OMNITRIX won't help you, XLR8 told him. It's not designed to cure genetic damage. You don't know that. Kevin snarled, advancing on her. You haven't even tried. Too busy playing hero to help someone who's actually suffering. XLR8 didn't back away. I do want to help. You, Kevin. But not by giving you the OMNITRIX. There are other ways, no. Kevin roared, his body flaring with unstable energy. No more talking. Give me the watch or I'll take it from your corpse. Before either could make a move, the ship lurched violently. Emergency systems activated, and a computerized voice announced, critical damage to propulsion systems. Gravitational stabilizers failing. Collision with planetary surface imminent. Grandpa's done it, XLR8 realized. He's bringing down the ship. We'll all die. Kevin shouted, genuine fear breaking through his rage. Not if we use the escape pods, XLR8 replied, gesturing to the capsules behind her. There's room for both of us. Kevin stared at her in suspicious disbelief. Why would you help me? After everything I've done? Because you're human, Kevin. Underneath all that alien DNA, you're still human. And I don't leave people behind. For a moment, it seemed like Kevin might accept her offer. Then his expression hardened again. Save your pity. I don't need it. He turned and fled down a different corridor, disappearing into the bowels of the failing ship. Kevin. XLR8 called after him, but there was no response. The ship shuddered again, more violently. XLR8 knew she was out of time. She entered the nearest escape pod, sealing the hatch just as the OMNITRIX timed out, returning her to human form. Through the pod's viewport, Gwen watched as Tetrax burst into the chamber, pursued by 66. The Petrosapien spotted her in the pod and made a decision. He threw something at the pod, a small device that attached to its hull, then turned to face 66, giving Gwen cover to launch. Gwen hit the ejection control, and the pod shot away from the dying ship, accelerating toward Earth's atmosphere. Through the viewport, she watched Vilgax's massive vessel begin breaking apart, secondary explosions rippling across its surface. "Tetrax," she whispered, hoping the Petrosapien had found his own way to escape. As the pod descended through the upper atmosphere, its communications system crackled to life. "Gwen. Gwen, do you copy?" Ben's voice came through, filled with both worry and hope. "I'm here," she replied, relief washing over her. "I'm in an escape pod." "We see you," Ben exclaimed. "Grandpa's tracking your descent. We'll meet you at the landing site." The pod deployed parachutes as it entered the lower atmosphere, slowing its descent to a survivable speed. Through the viewport, Gwen could see the transformed rust bucket flying alongside, escorting her to safety. The landing was rougher than she'd have liked, the pod skidding across a field before coming to rest against a rock formation. The hatch popped open automatically, and Gwen stumbled out into the fresh air, legs wobbly from the ordeal. The rust bucket, now returned to its more familiar RV appearance, touched down nearby. Ben was the first out, running to Gwen and, in a rare display of cousin affection, hugging her tightly. "Don't ever get abducted by alien warlords again," he ordered, quickly releasing her and pretending the hug hadn't happened. "I'll try to pencil that into my schedule," Gwen replied with a shaky smile. Max approached more slowly, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. "Are you hurt? What did Vilgax do to you?" "I'm okay," Gwen assured him. "He was about to remove the OMNITRIX when you attacked. Then Tetrax showed up." "Tetrax?" Max's eyebrows rose in surprise. "The bounty hunter who betrayed us. He was double-crossing Vilgax the whole time," Gwen explained. "He wanted to make sure the OMNITRIX didn't fall into Vilgax's hands." A shadow passed overhead as another pod descended nearby. This one landed with more control, settling gently on the ground. Its hatch opened to reveal Tetrax, looking battered but intact. "Speak of the devil," Ben muttered. Max positioned himself protectively in front of the children as Tetrax approached, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I deserve your suspicion," Tetrax acknowledged. "But I am not your enemy. You've got a funny way of showing it," Max replied coolly. "My methods were deceptive, yes," Tetrax admitted. "But my goal was always to protect the OMNITRIX from Vilgax. I infiltrated his operation to gain access to his ship and destroy it from within." "And the whole, kidnapping Gwen, thing?" Ben asked skeptically. "A calculated risk," Tetrax replied. "I needed Vilgax to believe I was loyal. If I had revealed my true intentions sooner, he would have simply sent other hunters, ones with no conscience at all." Gwen studied the Petrosapien thoughtfully. "You said Vilgax destroyed your planet. Was that true?" Tetrax's crystalline features seemed to darken with remembered pain. "Yes. Petropia is gone, its people scattered or extinct. Because of a weapon I helped Vilgax acquire in my youth." He looked directly at Max. "Your grandfather knows of this. It was before your time, but the plumbers documented the destruction of Petropia." Max nodded slowly. "It was one of the greatest tragedies in recent galactic history. So you've been trying to make up for it ever since," Gwen concluded. "Atonement is a path without end," Tetrax replied. "But today, I believe I took another step along it. Vilgax's ship is destroyed, and the OMNITRIX remains with its chosen bearer." "What about Vilgax himself?" Max asked the question they were all thinking. "Did he go down with the ship?" Tetrax's expression turned grim. "Vilgax has survived worse. I would not count on his demise until I saw his body, and even then, I might have doubts." "And Kevin?" Gwen asked quietly. "He was still on board. I tried to get him to escape with me, but the human absorber. I did not encounter him during my escape," Tetrax replied. "But if he has even a fraction of the survival instinct I witnessed, he may have found a way out." The conversation was interrupted by a beeping from the device Tetrax had attached to Gwen's escape pod. He retrieved it, examining the readings with interest. "What is that?" Ben asked. "A scanner," Tetrax explained. "It's been collecting data on the Omnitrix's current configuration." "Why?" Max asked suspiciously. "Because the Omnitrix is changing," Tetrax replied, showing them the display. "Adapting to its bearer in ways not documented in any known record. It's evolving." Gwen looked down at the device on her wrist with new wonder. "Evolving? How?" "The Omnitrix was designed to sample DNA, not to bond permanently with a host," Tetrax explained. "Yet it has integrated with your genetic structure more deeply than should be possible. It's as if the device is learning from you, just as you learn from it." "Is that dangerous?" Max asked, concern evident. "Unknown," Tetrax admitted. "But significant. It may explain why Azimuth went into seclusion after creating it." "Azimuth," Gwen repeated the name. "The Galvan who made the Omnitrix. Could he remove it safely?" "If anyone could, it would be Azimuth," Tetrax agreed. "But finding him is another matter entirely. He vanished decades ago, possibly to prevent his creations from being misused." "So what happens now?" Ben asked. "Vilgax is toast, the bounty hunters are scattered, and Gwen's still stuck with the most powerful device in the universe on her wrist." Tetrax considered the question. "The immediate danger has passed, but others will come. The Omnitrix is too valuable to remain uncoveted. You should use this reprieve wisely." "Meaning?" Max pressed. "Training," Tetrax replied simply. "The girl has natural aptitude with the device, but she's barely scratched the surface of its capabilities. And you, boy," he turned to Ben, "your quick thinking saved your cousin more than once. That mind could be as valuable as any transformation." Ben straightened a little at the unexpected praise. "I could provide guidance," Tetrax offered. "My ship is small, but it contains training modules designed for various species. I could remain on Earth for a time, help you prepare for whatever comes next." Max looked skeptical. "After your deception, you're asking us to trust you as a trainer?" "I'm offering to atone," Tetrax corrected. "And to ensure that the Omnitrix remains out of the wrong hands. But the decision is yours." He looked at Gwen. "More precisely, it is hers. The Omnitrix chose her as its bearer. That choice carries both power and responsibility." All eyes turned to Gwen, who found herself in the unfamiliar position of having the final say. She thought carefully, weighing everything that had happened since that fateful night when the watch fell from the sky. "I want to learn," she finally said. "About the Omnitrix, about the aliens I can become, about how to use this power responsibly. If you can teach me that, then yes, I accept your help." Tetrax nodded, satisfaction evident in his posture. "A wise decision. But," Gwen continued, "no more secrets. No more lies. Complete honesty about the Omnitrix and whatever dangers might come after it." "Agreed," Tetrax replied without hesitation. "And one more condition," Gwen added. "We find a way to help Kevin. His condition is partly my responsibility, whether I caused it directly or not." Tetrax seemed surprised by this condition. "The absorber's condition is complex. His human DNA has been corrupted by unstable alien genetic material. It may not be reversible." "We have to try," Gwen insisted. "He's not evil, just scared and in pain. Nobody deserves to suffer like that." After a moment's consideration, Tetrax nodded. "Your compassion is unexpected but admirable. I will assist in this endeavor as well." The conversation was interrupted by a distant explosion. They turned to see a fireball rising from the mountains several miles away. Vilgax's ship, Tetrax identified. The main reactor has finally breached. They watched the distant fire with mixed emotions, relief that the immediate threat was over, uncertainty about what would come next. "Summer vacation's almost over," Ben observed quietly. 2 weeks left before school starts again. 2 weeks to train, Gwen translated. Before we have to figure out how I'm supposed to be both a normal kid and, whatever this makes me. She looked down at the OMNITRIX. Max placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. You'll figure it out. Both of you will. He included Ben in his gaze. You're Tennyson's. Adapting to the impossible is what we do. Indeed, Tetrax agreed. And I suspect the universe has not seen the last of what this family can accomplish when united. As they prepared to leave the landing site, none of them noticed the small drone hovering at extreme distance, its advanced optics focused on Gwen and the OMNITRIX. The drone transmitted its data to a location far from Earth, a small, uncharted planetoid hidden within an asteroid field. There, in a laboratory filled with technology beyond even the plumber's understanding, a diminutive gray figure reviewed the footage with intense interest. Fascinating, Azimuth of the Galvan murmured, watching Gwen interact with the OMNITRIX. The device has chosen, wisely. Perhaps there is hope for it yet. With a gesture, he dismissed the holographic display and returned to his work, but his thoughts remained on the human girl who had unexpectedly inherited his greatest creation, and the responsibility that came with it. Use it well, Gwen Tennyson, he said to the empty room. The universe may depend on it. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.